Hey friends, thank you for being here tonight. In the next couple of hours we'll follow one beam of light through time, from ancient myths that called it divine, to Ibn al-Haytham's pinhole experiments in Abbasid, Baghdad. From lenses that birthed telescopes and microscopes, to lasers, fibre optic cables, and quantum-age photons. Eventually we'll see how a single ray reshaped science, medicine, art, and the entire wired world. Relax the body, slow down your thoughts, and let this story carry you into your own journey. For millennia, light has captivated human imagination, not just as a physical phenomenon, but as something far more profound, a force that governed existence itself. Across the world, light was seen as an essential divine force. It was revered, feared, and considered one of the most powerful elements that shaped both the natural and the spiritual world. From the sacred rays of the sun to the flickering flame of a candle, light has always been a constant source of mystery and fascination. It illuminated more than just the earth. It illuminated the minds of the greatest thinkers throughout history. In the ancient world, many cultures embraced the mystical and symbolic nature of light. The Egyptians, for example, associated light with the god Ra, the sun god, who embodied creation, growth, and the cyclical nature of life. Ra was not just a celestial being, but the very source of life itself. The daily journey of Ra's chariot across the sky mirrored the eternal flow of time, life, and death. Light in this context wasn't just something we could see, but something that connected humanity to divine forces beyond understanding. It became a metaphor for life's cycle, each day starting with the sunrise, bringing hope and warmth, and ending with the sunset, symbolizing rest, peace, and sometimes death. The Egyptians weren't merely observing light, they were honouring it as the axis of their worldview. In ancient Greece, light took on a different, more philosophical meaning. Philosophers like Plato and Aristotle sought to understand the very essence of light. For Plato, light was a symbol of truth, knowledge, and divine understanding. His allegory of the cave, perhaps the most famous philosophical metaphor involving light, used the idea of escaping the darkness of ignorance to step into the light of wisdom. In his view, light represented a higher plane of understanding, a transformative experience where those who were once chained in the shadows of unknowing could finally perceive reality in its true form. Plato saw light as something that could free the mind, elevating human consciousness to a more enlightened state. It wasn't merely about physical sight, but intellectual and spiritual illumination. Aristotle, on the other hand, looked at light from a more scientific perspective, at least for his time. He believed light was a substance that filled the air and played a critical role in vision. However, he didn't have the tools or knowledge to dissect it fully, and much of his ideas were speculative rather than based on evidence. Still, his exploration of light as a physical entity shaped early thinking about its role in perception. As early as 350 BCE, Aristotle's observations, though rudimentary, set the foundation for later inquiries into how light interacts with the world around us. Across many cultures, light was imbued with divine significance. To the Hindus, light represented the divine essence of the universe. The festival of Diwali, the festival of lights, celebrates the victory of good over evil, knowledge over ignorance, and light over darkness, encapsulating the belief that light is a spiritual purifier. It was more than a physical substance. It was a living force that connected the earthly and the divine, just as in ancient Egypt and Greece. In many indigenous cultures, light was seen as a reflection of the power of the gods or spirits. In Native American traditions, the sun, the ultimate source of light, was seen as a life-giving force, sustaining all living things. The sun was often represented as a deity, a powerful being who governed the seasons and gave life to the earth, while its absence during the night was considered a time of spiritual reflection and renewal. Similarly, in African spiritual beliefs, the sun's light was connected to wisdom, knowledge, and protection, offering guidance to the people during the day, while the night symbolized the realm of ancestors and spiritual forces. But what if we told you that this deep reverence for light, these age-old mysteries, were more than just poetic or religious expressions? What if the fascination with light was the spark, the initial spark, that would lead humanity to unravel the very nature of the universe itself? What if the answers to some of today's most pressing scientific questions could be traced back to these ancient beliefs and the curiosity they inspired. Light was not just something to be admired or worshipped. It was, and still is, a doorway, a gateway to understanding. It beckoned the ancient mind to peer beyond the surface and question its true nature. Could it be that light in all its mystery was not just a metaphor for the divine, but a key to unlocking the secrets of the universe? As centuries passed, ancient thinkers would move beyond the confines of myth and religion, attempting to study light in ways that went beyond symbolic reverence. The first steps towards a scientific understanding of light began here, in the search for answers to these age-old questions. It wasn't until much later, during the Islamic Golden Age in the Abbasid Empire, that scholars began to treat light not just as something divine, but as a natural phenomenon that could be understood and measured. These scholars, far from being merely mystics, emerged as pioneers in the field of optics, blending philosophy with rigorous experimentation. Their curiosity would eventually transform the study of light from something abstract and philosophical into a tangible scientific discipline. At this point in history, light was no longer just something that symbolized enlightenment. It was a tangible entity that could be analyzed. These early thinkers laid the foundations for understanding light not just as a physical force, but as a core element that could define the very laws of the universe. It would be the Abbasid scholars, like Ibn al-Haytham, who would begin the process of testing, observing and experimenting with light in ways that would set the stage for centuries of discovery. In this first part of our journey, we glimpse how the ancient fascination with light transcended its symbolic role and set the stage for future scientific advancements. The ideas of the past would soon give way to experiments and observations that would unlock the secrets of vision, refraction, and even the stars. What began as divine light became the key to understanding the laws of nature itself, leading humanity down a path of discovery that would shape the modern world. As we move forward in this story, we'll explore how these ancient ideas evolved into a new kind of thinking, a thinking that would turn light from a divine mystery into the very essence of science. As humanity's understanding of light began to evolve, early thinkers found themselves caught between speculation and observation, trying to unravel its nature and function. Theories of light were often drawn from philosophical concepts and rudimentary observations of the world around them. They didn't have the advanced tools or knowledge that we have today, but their curiosity laid the foundation for the breakthroughs that would come centuries later. The ancient Greeks were among the first to attempt to explain the phenomenon of light in a structured way, though their understanding was, of course, limited by the knowledge of the time. Pythagoras, one of the earliest Greek philosophers, believed that vision occurred through the emission of light from the eyes themselves, a theory known as the emission theory of vision. According to Pythagoras, the eye emitted light, which interacted with objects, allowing humans to perceive them. This idea suggested that the eye was an active participant in vision, rather than a passive receiver of external light. However, Pythagoras' theory was soon challenged. A more refined idea came from Plato, whose philosophical musing saw light as a manifestation of divine knowledge. Plato's theory was grounded in his metaphysical beliefs, particularly the idea that light was a kind of medium between the physical world and the realm of forms, the eternal, unchanging truths. To Plato, light was not just something that enabled sight, it was a force that revealed reality, enabling the mind to access higher knowledge. In his famous allegory of the cave, Plato illustrated how light was necessary to bring prisoners out of the shadows and into the brightness of true understanding. For Plato, the light symbolized enlightenment and intellectual awakening, an allegory that would influence Western thought for centuries. Aristotle, another towering figure of ancient Greek philosophy, took a more scientific approach to light. Though he didn't have the scientific tools we possess today, his observations about light and vision were far more systematic than those of Pythagoras or Plato. Aristotle believed that light was a physical substance that filled the air and that it was essential for vision. He proposed that objects reflected light, which then travelled to the eye and allowed humans to see them. In essence, Aristotle's ideas marked a shift towards considering light as an external agent, something that existed independently of the observer. But, like his predecessors, his theories lacked empirical evidence. They were based on philosophical reasoning, not experimental science. One of the more fascinating aspects of Aristotle's theories was his explanation of colour. He suggested that the colours we perceive are the result of the interaction between light and matter. This insight into colour would lay the groundwork for later investigations into the nature of light, especially as scholars began to refine the understanding of how light interacts with different materials. As we move eastward to ancient India, we see yet another rich tradition of thought about light. In Hindu philosophy, light was central to concepts of purity, divinity, and knowledge. The Vedic texts, some of the earliest in Indian civilization, often link light to the gods, especially Agni, the god of fire and light. Light in these texts was associated with wisdom and enlightenment, just as it was in Greek thought. But it wasn't until later, with the works of scholars like Aryabhata, that more scientific investigations into the nature of light would begin to emerge. Aryabhata, in his groundbreaking work, suggested that the moon's light wasn't its own, but reflected from the sun. This insight foreshadowed later discoveries about the reflective properties of light, ideas that would be fully explored by scholars in the Abbasid Empire. In the same period, Egyptian thinkers also had their own theories about light. The ancient Egyptians revered the sun as a divine entity, and their relationship with light was deeply tied to their cosmology and spiritual practices. The daily cycle of the sun, its rising and setting, was central to their beliefs about life, death, and rebirth. Light was synonymous with life and the absence of it, with death and the underworld. However, while the Egyptians revered the sun and its light, they did not develop the same systematic scientific theories about light that would emerge in the later Greek or Islamic traditions. Their understanding was more symbolic and religious, entwined with the rhythms of nature and the divine. As we move towards the Roman Empire, we find an intriguing blend of Greek philosophical thought and early practical investigations into the properties of light. Figures like Euclid, who was heavily influenced by the Greeks, started to delve into the geometric properties of light. In his treatise Optics, Euclid proposed that light travelled in straight lines. This marked an important step in understanding the behaviour of light. Euclid's insights laid the groundwork for later developments in optics, though his conclusions were still largely based on geometric reasoning, and experimental science was still in its infancy. The Romans, in particular, were more practical in their approach to light. Roman engineers and architects such as Vitruvius used light in their designs for buildings. They understood the importance of light for architectural purposes, how it illuminated space and influenced the atmosphere within buildings. But while they recognized light's practical value, their understanding of its deeper scientific properties was limited to the theories established by Greek philosophers. It's clear that the early theories of light were deeply tied to the prevailing philosophies, religious beliefs, and practices of the time. Light was seen not only as a physical phenomenon, but as a metaphysical force that influenced everything from perception to spirituality. These early thinkers laid the groundwork for the Abbasid scholars who would follow, combining philosophy and observation with an emerging empirical approach to science. Despite the speculative nature of these early ideas, the seeds were planted for the more rigorous studies that would follow. The questions about light, what it was, how it worked, and how it affected human perception, had been raised, and the answers would come slowly but surely. By the time scholars in the Islamic world began to study light systematically, they would stand on the shoulders of these early giants, Aristotle, Euclid, Plato, and others, who had asked the questions that would drive centuries of scientific exploration. These early theories of light, although primitive by today's standards, were a crucial step in humanity's ongoing quest to understand the universe. They mark the beginning of a long journey, one that would eventually lead to the birth of optics as a formal scientific discipline and shape the future of human knowledge and technology. The journey of understanding light was not linear. It was a gradual unfolding of ideas, each building upon the next, until a critical breakthrough emerged during the Islamic Golden Age, when the study of light would begin to take on a more scientific form. This was the birth of optics, not just as an idea or a philosophy, but as a formalized field of study. It was here, in the vibrant intellectual atmosphere of the Abbasid Empire, that the groundwork was laid for the study of light to evolve into a structured discipline that would change the course of history. By the 8th and 9th centuries, the Abbasid Caliphate was at the centre of a cultural and intellectual renaissance. With Baghdad as the heart of this flourishing civilization, scholars from across the Islamic world began to make revolutionary strides in fields ranging from mathematics to astronomy, medicine to philosophy. The study of light, or optics, was no longer confined to the musings of philosophers or religious scholars, but was treated as a serious scientific endeavour. And while the early Greeks and Romans had laid the conceptual foundation, it was the Abbasid scholars who would turn these ideas into an empirical science through careful observation, experimentation, and mathematical reasoning. One of the first to contribute to the scientific study of optics was Al-Kindi, often referred to as the philosopher of the Arabs. Al-Kindi's work in the 9th century was crucial in advancing the study of light from mere speculation to a field grounded in experimental observation. He introduced a systematic approach to studying the properties of light, particularly the way light reflected off surfaces. Al-Kindi's work on the reflection of light directly challenged many of the prevailing ideas, arguing that light travelled in straight lines and could be understood mathematically. This was a radical departure from the earlier mystical or philosophical treatments of light. Al-Kindi's focus on the material properties of light helped shift the field from abstract thought to tangible scientific study. However, it was Ibn al-Haytham, Alhazen, who would truly revolutionize optics, solidifying his place in history as one of the greatest scientists of the medieval period. Ibn al-Haytham's work in the 10th and 11th centuries would not only lay the foundations for modern optics, but would also influence the development of the scientific method itself. He approached the study of light with a rigorous and empirical mindset, establishing experiments that could be repeated and verified. Unlike his predecessors, Ibn al-Haytham was not content with mere philosophical speculation. He wanted to see for himself how light behaved in the real world. One of his most famous contributions to the field was his development of the pinhole camera experiment. This simple yet profound experiment demonstrated that light travels in straight lines, and that an image could be formed by light passing through a small hole and projecting onto a surface. This was a key insight into the nature of light and vision, and it laid the groundwork for future innovations in both photography and the study of vision. The pinhole camera experiment was one of the first times in history that a controlled, repeatable experiment was used to explore the behaviour of light, setting a precedent for modern scientific inquiry. Ibn al-Haytham's work on optics was groundbreaking not just for its experimental rigour, but also for its far-reaching consequences. He recognised that the study of light was integral to understanding how humans perceive the world. His research into vision challenged earlier ideas about sight, particularly the ancient Greek theory that vision was the result of light emitted from the eye. Ibn al-Haytham argued instead that vision occurred when light reflected off objects and entered the eye. This simple yet profound insight fundamentally changed how the process of seeing was understood and was one of the key innovations in the history of optics. In his treatise, Book of Optics, Ibn al-Haytham explored not just the reflection and refraction of light, but also how colour is perceived, how light bends through different mediums, and the role of light in forming images. His work introduced many concepts that would later be expanded upon in the Renaissance and beyond, including the idea that the lens in the eye plays a role in vision. His contributions were so impactful that they were referred to by European scholars centuries later, influencing figures like Johannes Kepler and René Descartes. In many ways, Ibn al-Haytham's Book of Optics can be seen as one of the first comprehensive scientific texts on the nature of light. While Ibn al-Haytham was making revolutionary advances in the study of light, another important figure in the development of optics was Al-Farabi, a polymath who, like Al-Kindi, bridged the gap between philosophy and science. Al-Farabi contributed to the early understanding of vision and light by elaborating on Aristotle's ideas, but also adding his own insights into how light could be understood as both a physical and metaphysical entity. His work helped to further the understanding of optics within the broader context of both science and philosophy, paving the way for future scholars to continue exploring the mysteries of light. These scholars not only developed the theoretical foundation of optics, but also laid the groundwork for practical applications. The Abbasid scholars' exploration of lenses and mirrors, for example, would eventually lead to the development of microscopes and telescopes centuries later. Their study of light's behaviour helped create tools that would allow humanity to peer both deeper into the minuscule world of cells and bacteria and further into the cosmos to stars and planets far beyond our reach. The birth of optics as a formal field of study during the Islamic Golden Age marked a crucial turning point in the history of science. No longer was light just a philosophical concept or a divine mystery. It was a physical phenomenon that could be measured, observed, and experimented upon. The scholars of the Abbasid Empire created a legacy that would shape the development of science for centuries to come, influencing the work of Renaissance thinkers like Leonardo da Vinci, Johannes Kepler, and Galileo Galilei, who would build upon their findings and further revolutionize the way we understand the universe. As the knowledge of optics spread through the Islamic world and eventually to Europe, it ignited a spark that would propel scientific thought into a new era. The birth of optics as a scientific discipline laid the groundwork not just for future discoveries in light, but for an entire field of study that would evolve into the modern understanding of vision, physics, and astronomy. The journey of understanding light, which had begun with the philosophical musings of ancient thinkers, entered a new phase with the work of Ibn al-Haytham, one of the greatest scientific minds of the medieval world. His name is still spoken with reverence in the history of optics and scientific methodology, not merely for his groundbreaking insights, but also for how he transformed the way science itself was done. Ibn al-Haytham's experiments in optics would not only revolutionize the study of light, but would also lay the foundation for modern experimental science as we know it today. Born in Basra in 965 CE, Ibn al-Haytham, known in the West as al-Hazan, was a polymath whose interests spanned mathematics, astronomy, medicine, and engineering. However, it was his work in optics, particularly his meticulous experiments with light and vision, that would have the most enduring impact. At a time when scientific experimentation was a rare pursuit, Ibn al-Haytham was an innovator, pioneering a new approach that emphasized careful observation, hypothesis testing, and the importance of reproducibility, principles that are fundamental to modern scientific inquiry. One of Ibn al-Haytham's most notable contributions was his development of the pinhole camera experiment, one of the first of its kind. Before Ibn al-Haytham, philosophers and scientists had speculated about how light and vision worked, but none had conducted systematic experiments to test these ideas. Drawing on the works of earlier thinkers, Ibn al-Haytham set out to explore the properties of light through direct experimentation. His simple yet profound observation was that light travels in straight lines. To test this, he constructed a device that would later become known as the camera obscura, a simple box with a small hole in one side. When light passed through this tiny hole, it projected an image of the outside world onto a surface inside the box. This experiment was revelatory. It demonstrated in a clear, observable way that light moves in straight lines, and that the properties of light could be studied by controlling how it entered a space. The pinhole camera not only provided proof for this idea, but also laid the groundwork for future developments in photography, visual media, and even the understanding of how our eyes perceive images. It was one of the earliest instances in history where an empirical experiment was used to test a scientific hypothesis, and it would have a profound influence on future generations of scientists, particularly during the Renaissance. But Ibn al-Haytham didn't stop there. His curiosity about light extended beyond the simple nature of how it moved. He also wanted to understand how we see. Prior to his work, many of the ancient Greek philosophers, including Pythagoras and Plato, believed that vision occurred because light was emitted from the eye itself. The prevailing theory was that the eye somehow sent out rays that touched objects and allowed us to see them. Ibn al-Haytham, however, took a different approach. Through his experiments, he concluded that vision occurred when light reflected off an object and entered the eye. This was a groundbreaking shift in how vision was understood. To demonstrate this, Ibn al-Haytham used experiments that involved mirrors and lenses, showing that light did not emanate from the eyes, but rather came from external sources, reflecting off surfaces and entering the eye to form an image. This theory of vision was revolutionary because it fundamentally changed the way people understood the process of seeing. It was one of the first scientific steps in the right direction toward understanding the mechanics of human sight, influencing the work of later vision scientists and even paving the way for developments in fields like optometry and ophthalmology. Ibn al-Haytham also discovered the law of refraction, which describes how light bends when it passes through different materials, such as air to water or air to glass. By experimenting with the angles at which light travelled through these different mediums, he developed the laws of refraction that would later be refined by others, such as Willebrord Snellius in the 17th century. His work on refraction was critical to the eventual development of lenses, which would become the cornerstone of technologies such as telescopes, microscopes, and even the modern camera. His understanding of refraction was not just theoretical. Ibn al-Haytham applied his insights to the practical creation of optical instruments. He was one of the first to describe how to use lenses to magnify objects, laying the groundwork for the development of optical tools that would drive both scientific discovery and artistic progress. His research would influence astronomers like Galileo Galilei and Johannes Kepler, who would build upon his understanding of optics to make revolutionary discoveries about the cosmos. Ibn al-Haytham's experiments weren't just about vision and optics, they also touched upon the nature of light itself. He was one of the first to suggest that light behaves both as a wave and as a particle, a concept that would not be fully developed until the 20th century with the advent of quantum mechanics. His work on the properties of light presaged much of what would later be explored in modern physics, and his insights were so ahead of their time that his influence continued to resonate long after his death. But perhaps one of the most remarkable aspects of Ibn al-Haytham's work was his approach to the scientific method. At a time when knowledge was often accepted on authority and speculation, Ibn al-Haytham insisted on empirical evidence. He believed that theories had to be tested against the real world, and only through careful observation and experimentation could true knowledge be gained. This emphasis on experimentation and verification would lay the foundation for the scientific method that would later define the modern scientific revolution. His work wasn't just a passing moment in history, it was a paradigm shift. The scientific principles that Ibn al-Haytham established in his experiments would go on to influence medieval scholars, Renaissance thinkers, and modern scientists alike. His work would inspire figures like Roger Bacon, Johannes Kepler, and even Isaac Newton, who would draw on his observations to further our understanding of light, vision, and the universe. Without Ibn al-Haytham's experiments, the field of optics might not have advanced as quickly, and many of the technological breakthroughs we take for granted today might have been delayed by centuries. In a world where knowledge was often fragmented, Ibn al-Haytham's experiments were a unifying force, connecting philosophy, mathematics, astronomy, and medicine. His work in optics gave birth to a new way of thinking, one rooted in the belief that the universe could be understood through observation, evidence, and the relentless pursuit of truth. In doing so, he not only illuminated the nature of light, but also sparked a scientific revolution that would forever alter humanity's relationship with the world around it. The idea of vision has always been a subject of wonder and speculation, dating back to ancient times. For thousands of years, thinkers across civilizations tried to understand the mechanics behind how humans perceive the world around them. Ancient theories about sight were often a mix of philosophical ideas and simple observations, but it wasn't until the works of scholars like Ibn al-Haytham that the true nature of vision began to be uncovered. Ibn al-Haytham's work on vision would not only revolutionize our understanding of sight, but also transform the way humans would think about the relationship between light and perception. In the centuries before Ibn al-Haytham, the prevailing theories about vision were rooted in philosophical speculation. As early as ancient Greece, thinkers such as Pythagoras and Plato proposed radically different ideas about how humans could see the world. For Pythagoras, the theory was that vision was the result of rays emitted from the eyes themselves. In this view, the eye actively sent out light rays that interacted with objects, allowing humans to see them. This emission theory of vision implied that the eye was an active participant in the process of seeing, sending out light to illuminate the world around it. Plato, following in the footsteps of Pythagoras, also believed in a similar concept of vision, though his ideas were more metaphysical. For Plato, sight was connected to the realm of the forms, the perfect and immutable concepts of reality. He thought that the eye was able to see because it was illuminated by a divine light, a form of light that connected the human soul to higher knowledge. Vision, to Plato, was not simply a mechanical process, but a way for humans to engage with truth and wisdom. However, despite these philosophical musings, there was little empirical understanding of vision in these ancient theories. It wasn't until the Islamic Golden Age that the true nature of vision was approached scientifically, and it was Ibn al-Haytham who would change the course of this understanding forever. His experiments and observations brought a new clarity to the question of how we see, setting the stage for the study of optics and vision to evolve into the precise science it is today. Ibn al-Haytham's major contribution to the theory of vision was his rejection of the idea that the eyes emitted light. Instead, through careful experimentation, he proposed that vision occurred when light reflected off objects and entered the eyes. This was a radical shift from previous ideas, and it marked a major turning point in the history of optics. Ibn al-Haytham showed that the eye did not actively emit light but passively received light reflected from objects, which then formed an image in the mind. This shift from the emission theory to the intromission theory of vision, the idea that light enters the eye from the external world, was a pivotal moment in the history of science. In his Book of Optics, Ibn al-Haytham explained that for light to enter the eye and allow us to see, it had to be reflected off objects. He demonstrated that light travels in straight lines, and that when it hits an object, some of it reflects off the surface, enters the eye, and forms an image. This understanding was a crucial leap in the study of vision, as it allowed for a more systematic investigation into how light interacts with objects and how the eye processes this information. To further demonstrate his theory, Ibn al-Haytham conducted a series of experiments with mirrors and lenses. He showed that the angle at which light strikes an object affects how we perceive it, and that our perception of an object is influenced by the reflection of light from it. He also explored how the size of the pupil and the lens inside the eye help to focus light onto the retina, creating a sharp image. This early understanding of the mechanics of vision laid the groundwork for future discoveries about how the human eye works, and set the stage for later advancements in both optical science and medicine. What makes Ibn al-Haytham's work so remarkable is that he didn't just propose a new theory, he backed it up with empirical evidence. Unlike many of his predecessors, who relied on philosophical reasoning or observation without experimentation, Ibn al-Haytham used a scientific approach that involved testing and verifying his ideas. He demonstrated his theories of vision through controlled experiments that could be repeated and verified by others. His insistence on experimentation and observation as the cornerstone of scientific inquiry would inspire future generations of scientists, establishing a new standard for the scientific method that continues to guide research today. Ibn al-Haytham's work on vision also had a profound impact on the development of optical instruments. His understanding of how light reflected and entered the eye led to the invention of early lenses and magnifying glasses, which would later evolve into the telescopes and microscopes that transformed the study of the cosmos and the microscopic world. Ibn al-Haytham's principles of vision and optics would influence not only the field of science, but also the development of art and technology. His understanding of how light creates an image inside the eye laid the foundation for the realistic depiction of light and shadow in Renaissance art, where artists like Leonardo da Vinci and Caravaggio would use light to create depth and realism in their paintings. One of the lasting impacts of Ibn al-Haytham's work on vision was how it reshaped the field of medicine, particularly in the area of ophthalmology. His investigations into how the eye perceives light provided a more precise understanding of vision, which in turn led to advancements in treating vision-related ailments. Although Ibn al-Haytham didn't have the tools to perform complex surgeries, his understanding of the eye and its function would lay the groundwork for later medical breakthroughs in eye care, including the development of cataract surgery and corrective lenses. Through his systematic approach, Ibn al-Haytham also challenged the prevailing notions of his time. He insisted that theories must be tested against the physical world. This emphasis on observation and experimentation was a crucial step in the development of modern science, influencing later scientists like Roger Bacon, Kepler and Descartes, who would continue to develop the scientific understanding of vision and optics. Ibn al-Haytham's work was a key turning point in the history of science, transforming vision from a mystical, abstract concept to a field of study grounded in empirical research. By the time his work began to spread across the Islamic world and into Europe, it had already started to revolutionize the way we think about the world. Ibn al-Haytham's discoveries were not only central to the study of light and vision, but also shaped the way future generations of scientists would approach their own investigations. His methodical and empirical approach to science laid the foundations for the scientific revolution, making him a pivotal figure in the history of science. In this moment, when Ibn al-Haytham's theories on vision and light were beginning to take root, the world was on the verge of a new era, one that would eventually lead to the breakthroughs of the Renaissance, the Enlightenment, and beyond. His work in optics and vision has continued to influence our understanding of light, perception, and the universe, proving that the pursuit of knowledge driven by curiosity and experimentation has the power to transform our understanding of the world. The concept of light's reflection, how it bounces off surfaces and changes direction, has long been one of the most important principles in the study of optics. While many of the great thinkers before Ibn al-Haytham speculated about the nature of light, it was his work that transformed reflection from a mere observation into a formalized scientific understanding. By delving into the behavior of light as it reflected off various surfaces, Ibn al-Haytham not only answered many of the questions that had puzzled earlier scholars, but also set the stage for future discoveries in a wide array of fields, from architecture to astronomy, from medicine to art. Before Ibn al-Haytham's time, the concept of reflection was generally understood, but not thoroughly investigated. The ancient Greeks had a basic understanding of how light interacted with mirrors, but these ideas were more theoretical than experimental. The famous Greek mathematician Euclid, for example, posited that light travelled in straight lines, and in his treatise on optics, he discussed the reflective properties of mirrors. Yet there was no detailed exploration of how these reflections worked, or how light could be manipulated through various surfaces. The work of early scientists, though foundational, remained largely speculative. Ibn al-Haytham, with his systematic approach to experimentation, revolutionized this understanding. Through a series of carefully crafted experiments, he demonstrated that light does indeed travel in straight lines, and that it reflects off surfaces at a specific angle. In what became known as the law of reflection, Ibn al-Haytham discovered that the angle at which light strikes a reflective surface, whether a mirror or a smooth body of water, is always equal to the angle at which it bounces off that surface. This principle, known as the angle of incidence equaling the angle of reflection, was a key finding that would influence countless applications in science and engineering. This simple yet profound law of reflection would become the cornerstone of much of optics and light theory. Ibn al-Haytham's work not only provided the first rigorous explanation of how light interacts with reflective surfaces, but it also paved the way for advances in the creation of mirrors, lenses, and other optical instruments. For the first time, scientists and engineers could not only describe the behavior of light, but predict and manipulate it. One of Ibn al-Haytham's significant contributions was his experimentation with concave and convex mirrors. He explored how the shape of reflective surfaces could affect the way light behaved. Concave mirrors, for instance, could focus light to a single point, while convex mirrors would scatter light, spreading it out. These findings would later have profound implications for the development of optical devices like telescopes and microscopes, which depend on the ability to focus or diffuse light in specific ways. Ibn al-Haytham's work on reflection also had an immediate and practical impact on the everyday lives of people. At the time, mirrors were not just tools for vanity or decoration. They were central to the fields of astronomy and medicine. Astronomers relied on reflective surfaces to magnify and study distant stars, while physicians began to understand how mirrors could be used to view the inner workings of the body, laying the foundation for later advancements in surgery. For instance, the study of light reflection helped improve the construction of optical instruments used in eye surgery. As Ibn al-Haytham explored the path of light in his experiments, his understanding of how light could be reflected with precision would later influence the development of devices that allowed surgeons to better see inside the eye and other organs. His insight into the properties of light provided the theoretical foundation for the creation of instruments like the ophthalmoscope, which is used in modern medicine to examine the interior of the eye. The law of reflection also played a major role in the development of architecture. As architects and engineers learned to manipulate the reflection of light, they could design buildings that made better use of natural light, creating more efficient and aesthetically pleasing spaces. The use of reflective surfaces in design helped shape the way that light entered buildings and illuminated spaces, making architectural designs more energy efficient and artistically dynamic. In the world of art, the understanding of light's reflection would go on to transform the way artists created and viewed their work. In the Renaissance, artists like Leonardo da Vinci and Caravaggio began to apply the principles of light reflection to their paintings. Understanding how light bounced off surfaces allowed artists to create realistic shadows and highlights, adding depth and dimension to their works. The play of light and shadow in painting, known as chiaroscuro, became a hallmark of Renaissance art, and it was all rooted in the principles that Ibn al-Haytham had uncovered through his work on reflection. Reflection also played a crucial role in the development of telescopes and microscopes. The understanding of how mirrors could reflect light led to the creation of optical instruments that would allow humans to peer into the farthest reaches of space, and examine the tiniest details of the microscopic world. The use of mirrors in telescopes allowed astronomers to magnify distant stars, galaxies, and planets, changing our understanding of the universe. Similarly, microscopes, with their ability to focus light and reveal the hidden world of cells and bacteria, would have a profound impact on medicine, biology, and the study of life itself. What is remarkable about Ibn al-Haytham's experiments with reflection is that he didn't just stumble upon these principles through intuition. He carefully observed and documented every aspect of light's behaviour. He was one of the first to employ controlled experimentation in his studies, testing his hypotheses by conducting repeatable experiments that could be verified by others. In doing so, Ibn al-Haytham transformed the study of light from an abstract philosophical pursuit into a precise science. His work set a standard for how scientific inquiry should be conducted, an inquiry based on empirical evidence, reproducibility, and logical reasoning. It was this methodology that would influence the development of the scientific method, guiding the work of future scientists such as Galileo, Kepler, and Newton, who would later build upon Ibn al-Haytham's findings to explore the mysteries of the universe. Reflecting upon the impact of Ibn al-Haytham's work on light reflection, it becomes clear that his discoveries were not just theoretical. They were profoundly practical, touching every aspect of life, from medicine and art to engineering and astronomy. The laws of reflection that he uncovered continue to shape our understanding of the physical world and remain foundational to the technology we use every day. Whether in the lenses of our glasses, the telescopes that explore the far reaches of space, or the mirrors that allow us to see the world in all its detail, Ibn al-Haytham's work on reflection has left an indelible mark on humanity's understanding of light and the way we interact with the world. The concept of refraction, how light bends when it passes from one medium into another, was another critical breakthrough in the study of optics. While the ancient philosophers had speculated about the nature of light's behaviour, it was the work of scholars like Ibn al-Haytham that would crystallise these concepts and turn them into an essential scientific understanding. Ibn al-Haytham's experiments on refraction not only enhanced our comprehension of how light behaves in different materials, but they also laid the foundation for the invention of lenses, which would later become central to optical instruments like microscopes, telescopes, and cameras. The ancient Greeks, particularly the mathematician Euclid, had made some observations about the bending of light, though their understanding was rudimentary. They noted that when light passed through different substances such as water or air, it seemed to change direction. But they lacked the tools and techniques to explore this phenomenon in depth. The concept of light refraction remained largely a mystery until the Islamic Golden Age, when scholars like Ibn al-Haytham began to explore the properties of light with more precision. Ibn al-Haytham's approach to refraction was experimental, and it involved a series of carefully conducted investigations into how light behaved when passing through various mediums. Through his work, he demonstrated that when light travels from one material, such as air, into another with a different density, such as water or glass, it changes direction, bending as it enters the new substance. This bending of light is what we now call refraction. One of the key insights Ibn al-Haytham discovered was that the amount by which light bends depends on the angle at which it enters the new medium and the density of the medium itself. This was encapsulated in a basic principle of refraction. The greater the difference in density between two materials, the more light will bend. This discovery was a significant step forward in the study of optics, and it led directly to the development of lenses, the key component in a variety of optical instruments. Before Ibn al-Haytham, lenses were not understood as tools that could control light's path. But after his work on refraction, lenses became more than just curiosities. They became devices that could focus light in specific ways. By understanding how light bent when passing through curved surfaces, Ibn al-Haytham's work paved the way for the creation of concave and convex lenses, which would later revolutionize the study of both the microscopic and astronomical worlds. Concave lenses, which are thinner in the center than at the edges, were designed to diverge light, spreading it out. Convex lenses, on the other hand, are thicker in the middle and can focus light to a single point. Ibn al-Haytham's experiments with refraction showed that the way light bends as it enters these lenses can be used to magnify objects or focus light onto a specific area. This principle would be critical in the development of the microscope and the telescope, instruments that would change the course of science forever. The birth of lenses didn't just change our understanding of light, it revolutionized our ability to see. For centuries, humans had been limited to their natural vision, but by manipulating light through the use of lenses, Ibn al-Haytham helped create the means to observe both the smallest and the most distant things in the universe. The microscope, which emerged centuries later, allowed scientists to explore the microscopic world of cells, bacteria, and microorganisms, leading to groundbreaking discoveries in biology and medicine. The telescope, meanwhile, opened up the cosmos, allowing astronomers to study planets, stars, and galaxies far beyond the reach of the naked eye. Ibn al-Haytham's work on refraction and lenses also laid the foundation for the development of optical instruments used in other fields, such as medicine. His understanding of how light can be focused through lenses led to advancements in surgical instruments and diagnostic tools. The ophthalmoscope, for example, an instrument used to examine the inside of the eye, was built upon the principles Ibn al-Haytham discovered in his investigations into refraction and light behaviour. His theories didn't stop at practical inventions. They also contributed to a deeper understanding of the physical laws that govern the natural world. Ibn al-Haytham's work on refraction, while central to optics, also bridged the gap between mathematics and natural philosophy. By combining geometry, mathematics, and physical experimentation, he began to see the universe in terms of laws and principles that could be understood through reason and observation. This would lay the groundwork for later developments in physics and astronomy, where the same principles of light would help to explain the nature of the universe itself. While the immediate impact of Ibn al-Haytham's work on refraction and lenses was in the development of optical instruments, his influence also spread to other fields. Alhazen's laws of refraction would later be incorporated into Euclidean geometry and optical theory, influencing scientists like Kepler and Descartes, who would later develop more sophisticated models of light's behaviour. In particular, Kepler built upon Ibn al-Haytham's work when developing his own theories on the behaviour of light in the telescope. In addition to his scientific contributions, Ibn al-Haytham's understanding of light's refraction also influenced the arts. The realistic use of light and shadow in Renaissance painting owes much to the principles of refraction and reflection that Ibn al-Haytham uncovered. Artists like Caravaggio and Rembrandt applied the mathematical principles of optics to achieve lifelike representations of light in their works. Their use of light to create drama and depth in their paintings was a direct descendant of Ibn al-Haytham's exploration of how light interacts with surfaces. Refraction would not only shape the way humans viewed the microscopic and macroscopic worlds, but would also inspire a philosophical revolution. The study of refraction contributed to a broader shift in how we approach scientific inquiry, as it demonstrated that natural phenomena could be understood through observation, experimentation, and mathematical reasoning. Ibn al-Haytham's work bridged the gap between the ancient world's philosophical musings about light and the scientific methods that would define the Renaissance and beyond. As we reflect on the work of Ibn al-Haytham, we see that his contributions to the study of refraction were not just about bending light, they were about bending the way we thought about the world. By understanding how light interacted with different materials, Ibn al-Haytham created the tools that would allow us to see in ways never before imagined. His work with lenses and refraction opened the door to the scientific and artistic revolutions that would follow, changing the way we viewed the world and the universe. The study of light, while primarily associated with physics and optics, found early and groundbreaking applications in the field of medicine, particularly in the realm of eye care. As Ibn al-Haytham and his contemporaries explored the properties of light, how it reflected, refracted, and entered the eye, they inadvertently laid the groundwork for some of the most significant advancements in medical science. The principles of optics, so crucial to understanding how we see, would also lead to real-world applications in the treatment of eye diseases, which at the time had limited options for diagnosis and cure. Ibn al-Haytham's work on vision and the mechanics of light entering the eye was revolutionary for medicine, as it not only clarified how sight works, but also hinted at methods to treat vision-related ailments. While the tools for surgery were still primitive by modern standards, his exploration of the eye's structure and function was a precursor to ophthalmology, the medical field that would later specialize in the treatment of the eye and its diseases. Before Ibn al-Haytham's work, medical understanding of the eye was rudimentary. Many ancient cultures had no concept of how vision worked beyond the basic observation that light entering the eye was crucial to sight. In ancient Egypt and Greece, the primary approach to eye problems was a mixture of herbal treatments and rituals, rather than scientific understanding or surgical intervention. It was not until the Islamic Golden Age, with thinkers like Ibn al-Haytham, that a more scientific approach to vision began to emerge. Ibn al-Haytham's theory that light entered the eye from external objects, rather than the eye emitting light itself, was pivotal for the medical understanding of vision. His experiments demonstrated how light travels, is reflected, and enters the eye, which would later inform the development of optical instruments used in eye care. His work would also influence later scholars and physicians to begin exploring how diseases of the eye could be treated by understanding the mechanics of light, lenses, and the optical pathways of vision. One of the most significant contributions that emerged from Ibn al-Haytham's theories was the invention of the magnifying lens. Although not directly linked to medical practice at the time, the magnifying properties of lenses would play a crucial role in eye care in the centuries to come. By using lenses to magnify the eye's structure, or to better view distant objects, physicians could begin to develop the rudimentary tools that would later evolve into ophthalmic instruments such as the ophthalmoscope, which is used to examine the interior of the eye. Ibn al-Haytham's understanding of refraction also had an indirect impact on medicine. The ability to bend light through lenses and focus it on a specific point allowed later generations of medical practitioners to develop more sophisticated diagnostic tools. In the centuries following Ibn al-Haytham's work, his principles would be adapted into early microscopes and other instruments that allowed doctors to examine tissues and cells in greater detail. The link between optics and medicine would continue to evolve as light manipulation enabled more precise diagnostics and treatments for a variety of ailments. One of the most fascinating and practical applications of Ibn al-Haytham's discoveries in medicine came in the form of cataract surgery. Cataracts, which cause clouding of the eye's lens and result in blurred vision or blindness, were one of the most common vision problems in antiquity. While ancient civilizations had no means of curing cataracts, Ibn al-Haytham's work on light and the eye's lenses provided a theoretical foundation for future surgical interventions. His understanding of light refraction and the focus of images would be critical in developing methods to treat cataracts through surgery. Though it would take several centuries for the full medical implications of Ibn al-Haytham's work to be realized, the basic principles of how light interacts with the eye would eventually lead to advances in surgical techniques. In fact, by the 18th century, European surgeons were performing cataract surgeries using techniques that, while crude by modern standards, were rooted in the basic principles of lens manipulation and light focus that Ibn al-Haytham had outlined centuries earlier. Furthermore, the principles of light and optics that Ibn al-Haytham explored helped to inform the development of spectacles and glasses, which would become commonplace by the 13th century in Europe. As scholars and practitioners of medicine continued to study and understand the optical properties of light, they began to develop lenses that could correct vision for people suffering from nearsightedness, farsightedness, and astigmatism. Ibn al-Haytham's discoveries in optics became the foundation for these innovations, which drastically improved the quality of life for millions of people around the world. In the world of surgery, the ability to magnify and better observe the interior of the body using lenses and mirrors became crucial for precision operations. Surgeons began to use early forms of magnifying lenses, much like those described by Ibn al-Haytham, to perform delicate procedures with greater accuracy. The refinement of surgical instruments would continue to improve over time, thanks in part to the discoveries of early thinkers like Ibn al-Haytham. By examining how light interacted with the human eye, Ibn al-Haytham's work in optics provided physicians with the tools to diagnose and treat a wide array of visual impairments. His approach, rooted in experimentation and observation, set the stage for the growth of modern ophthalmology, a field that would continue to expand over the centuries, with later scholars and doctors building on Ibn al-Haytham's findings. As we look back on Ibn al-Haytham's contributions to medicine, it becomes clear that his experiments with light and vision were not just theoretical or abstract. They had immediate and lasting implications for real-world applications. His work bridged the gap between scientific inquiry and practical medical treatments, giving birth to a new era of eye care that would continue to evolve and improve over time. The legacy of Ibn al-Haytham in medicine is not just in the instruments he inspired, or the surgeries he indirectly helped to refine, but also in the methodological revolution he brought to medical science. His insistence on empirical evidence and scientific observation helped to establish the foundation for modern medical practices that rely on evidence-based methods. Today, as we use the tools and techniques inspired by Ibn al-Haytham's work to treat eye diseases, we continue to honour his legacy as one of the pioneers in the history of medical science. The study of light did not remain confined to the confines of the human eye or the material world. It soon extended its reach to the stars. The connection between light and the cosmos represents one of the most profound shifts in human understanding, propelling us from the confines of our planet into the infinite universe beyond. It was the work of scholars in the Abbasid Empire, particularly astronomers like al-Battani, who expanded the principles of optics and light into the field of astronomy, shaping the course of cosmic exploration for centuries to come. The ancient world's understanding of the cosmos was largely governed by mythological interpretations and the limited tools available for observation. In the early civilizations, the stars were often seen as divine or supernatural phenomena, guiding forces, gods in the heavens, or omens that foretold events on Earth. In ancient Greece, Ptolemy and other astronomers made early strides toward understanding the movement of celestial bodies, but their theories were still largely rooted in a geocentric model of the universe, where the Earth was at the centre and the stars and planets moved in complex patterns around it. However, it was during the Islamic Golden Age, particularly within the Abbasid Empire, that the study of the cosmos reached new heights. The vast intellectual environment of the Abbasid world, with its flourishing cities like Baghdad and Cairo, was home to astronomers, mathematicians and scholars who embraced the idea that the cosmos could be understood through observation, reason and science. It was during this time that light, particularly how it interacted with celestial bodies, began to unlock new insights into the universe. Al-Battani, circa 858 to 929 CE, one of the greatest Islamic astronomers, made groundbreaking advancements in the study of light's role in celestial observations. His work on the motion of the stars and the calculation of planetary positions relied heavily on precise measurements and observations of how light travelled across the sky. Unlike his ancient Greek predecessors, al-Battani used mathematical formulas and empirical data to track the movements of the planets, a crucial step that would later influence astronomers like Copernicus and Kepler. Al-Battani's observations of the stars demonstrated that astronomical phenomena were governed by predictable laws that could be observed through the study of light itself. In particular, al-Battani's work on the solar year and the length of the seasons was a direct application of his study of light. He improved the accuracy of calculations related to the length of the year and the solstices, using the angle of sunlight to measure the Earth's orbit around the Sun. His accurate calculations would have a lasting impact on both astronomy and the development of calendar systems, influencing cultures far beyond the Islamic world. As scholars like al-Battani and his contemporaries worked with the properties of light to observe the stars, they also began to see light as more than just a tool for observation. It was a measure of distance, a way to understand the size of the cosmos and the immense scale of space. Their observations of how light travelled through the cosmos began to challenge earlier models of the universe. It was during this period that the first telescopic observations, though not yet using lenses, began to take shape, as astronomers relied on the principles of light reflection and refraction to interpret celestial bodies. The Abbasid scholars did not stop at the Earth's immediate surroundings. They began to probe deeper into the nature of light as it travelled through space, especially with respect to the light from distant stars. The movement of light through the atmosphere was something that could be measured, and by studying it, astronomers like al-Battani began to make sense of the distances between stars and planets, and the speed at which light travelled. But the most groundbreaking aspect of their work was how light served as a bridge between the known world and the unknown cosmos. Astronomers began to understand that the light we see from stars is not simply a reflection of their immediate surroundings, it is a beacon from the distant past. The light that reaches us today from the stars and other celestial bodies began to be seen as a message, a window into the farthest reaches of the universe. This insight foreshadowed many of the discoveries in modern astronomy, including the recognition that light travels at a finite speed, and that by studying light from distant stars, we could peer backward in time to witness the early history of the universe. Optical instruments developed for astronomy would play a critical role in later discoveries about the stars. By the 10th century, the astrolabe, an instrument that could measure the position of stars and planets using principles of light reflection and refraction, became a key tool for Islamic astronomers. The astrolabe allowed scholars to make detailed maps of the heavens, charting the paths of celestial bodies. Its design and use were built upon the foundational understanding of how light interacted with surfaces, thanks to Ibn al-Haytham's studies of reflection and refraction. Though the telescope would not be invented until centuries later, the groundwork for its development was laid by these early astronomers. Their ability to measure the paths of light from stars and planets, and their understanding of how light could be used to observe the cosmos, would eventually lead to the creation of the telescope, a tool that would revolutionize our understanding of the universe and our place within it. The concept of light years, the unit of distance used in astronomy to measure vast cosmic distances, was not yet a term during the Abbasid period, but the principles of light's behaviour in the cosmos were being formulated by these early thinkers. Their observations of the speed and travel of light, along with their understanding of how light could reveal the structure of the universe, would inform later discoveries in both physics and astronomy, leading to the eventual exploration of black holes, galaxies, and the expanding universe. As astronomers of the Abbasid period worked with light, they were not just studying the stars for navigation or scientific curiosity. They were seeking answers to some of the most profound questions humanity has ever asked. What is the nature of the universe? What lies beyond the limits of our sight? How vast is the cosmos, and how do we fit into it? In this sense, the study of light was not just an intellectual pursuit, it was a journey into the unknown. The astronomical observations made by these scholars would inspire the works of later figures like Copernicus, Galileo, and Kepler, whose revolutionary ideas would eventually reshape the very foundation of our understanding of the universe. Through their understanding of light, these early astronomers began to see the stars not as divine forces or mystical symbols, but as physical bodies, subject to the same laws of nature as everything else on Earth. The journey of light, from the first observations of its reflection to the first attempts to peer into the universe using its properties, was a profound transformation in the way humans perceive the cosmos. What began as a search for knowledge about the earthly realm soon expanded into the boundless universe, laying the groundwork for modern astronomy and astrophysics. The work of scholars like Ibn al-Haytham, al-Battani, and others during the Islamic Golden Age did not remain confined to the intellectual circles of the Abbasid Empire. The discoveries and theories that emerged from the study of light, vision, and optics soon began to spread across the known world, influencing scholars, scientists, and thinkers in both the Islamic world and beyond. This dissemination of knowledge, particularly through the translation and preservation of key texts, played a critical role in shaping the future of science, both in the Middle Ages and in the Renaissance that followed. The Islamic Golden Age, with its thriving cities of Baghdad, Cairo, and Damascus, served as a hub for the translation and preservation of ancient Greek, Persian, and Indian scientific works. Scholars of the time were not only engaged in original research, but also in the task of translating the works of earlier thinkers like Aristotle, Euclid, Ptolemy, and Galileo into Arabic. This effort ensured that the vast corpus of knowledge from the classical world would not be lost, but would instead be built upon, creating a bridge between the ancient and medieval worlds. One of the most notable centres for this exchange of knowledge was the House of Wisdom, Beit al-Hikmah, in Baghdad. This grand intellectual institution, founded during the early Abbasid period, was a place where scholars from across the empire gathered to study, translate, and debate various subjects including mathematics, astronomy, medicine, and optics. Ibn al-Haytham's work on light, vision, and optics was just one of many areas of study that flourished within the walls of the House of Wisdom, but its impact would extend far beyond the Islamic world. The transmission of knowledge from the Islamic world to Europe occurred in several key stages, beginning with the translation of important Arabic texts into Latin during the 12th and 13th centuries. European scholars, particularly in Spain, Italy, and France, began to encounter the works of Ibn al-Haytham and other prominent Abbasid thinkers. The Toledo School of Translators, based in the Spanish city of Toledo, became one of the central points for the translation of Arabic scientific texts into Latin, making these works accessible to a European audience for the first time. This influx of knowledge had a profound impact on the development of science in medieval Europe. The rediscovery of ancient Greek and Roman works combined with the original contributions from Islamic scholars helped spark the Renaissance, a period of intellectual and cultural awakening that fundamentally reshaped Europe's scientific and philosophical outlook. Ibn al-Haytham's contributions to optics, vision, and light were particularly influential, as they offered a new scientific approach that emphasized empirical observation, experimentation, and the scientific method. Scholars like Roger Bacon, Johannes Kepler, and Leonardo da Vinci were directly influenced by the works of Ibn al-Haytham. Kepler, in particular, would build upon Ibn al-Haytham's laws of reflection and refraction to formulate his own theories about light and vision. The Renaissance thinkers who studied the works of Ibn al-Haytham often found inspiration in his insistence on empirical verification, the idea that theories must be tested through experimentation and observation. This philosophy would become a cornerstone of modern scientific inquiry, particularly in the fields of optics and physics. One of the most significant aspects of the spread of knowledge from the Islamic world to Europe was the impact it had on astronomy. The accurate astronomical data compiled by al-Battani and others were translated and incorporated into European scientific works, particularly by astronomers like Copernicus and Galileo, who would later revolutionize the field with their heliocentric models of the solar system. The work of the Islamic astronomers, who meticulously measured the positions of the stars and planets, provided a crucial foundation for the later developments of modern astronomy. This exchange of knowledge also had a profound impact on medicine. The anatomical and physiological texts of Islamic scholars, which were influenced by earlier Greek and Roman works but also offered original insights, began to circulate throughout Europe. Ibn Sina, Avicenna, for example, wrote his famous medical encyclopedia, The Canon of Medicine, which synthesized centuries of medical knowledge and became a key reference in both the Islamic world and Europe for centuries. The exchange of these medical texts helped advance European medicine, particularly in the areas of surgery, anatomy, and ophthalmology. The printing press, invented in the 15th century, played a significant role in the further spread of scientific knowledge. The invention of the printing press made it easier to mass-produce texts, which allowed the works of Islamic and Renaissance scholars to reach an even wider audience. Books that had once been handwritten and rare were now widely available, and the ideas of Ibn al-Haytham and other scholars were disseminated to a global audience. Beyond Europe, the spread of knowledge also reached Asia. In the Indian subcontinent, scholars were deeply influenced by the works of Islamic thinkers, particularly in the fields of mathematics and astronomy. The Islamic world's mathematical concepts, such as algebra and the decimal system, were adopted and expanded upon by Indian scholars, leading to further advancements in mathematics and scientific understanding. As the centuries passed, the knowledge and innovations of the Abbasid scholars continued to shape the trajectory of global scientific thought. The study of light, optics, and vision, in particular, became integral to the development of many technological advances. The ability to manipulate light through the use of lenses, mirrors, and telescopes laid the groundwork for the scientific revolution that would eventually lead to the technological marvels of the modern world. The spread of knowledge from the Islamic world to Europe and beyond was not just about the diffusion of scientific theories. It was about the transmission of a scientific methodology that emphasized experimentation, observation, and rational inquiry. The works of Ibn al-Haytham and his contemporaries helped to establish a new way of thinking about the world, one that valued evidence over speculation, and that sought to uncover the laws of nature through careful, systematic study. As we look back on the intellectual legacy of the Islamic Golden Age, it is clear that the spread of knowledge during this period was not only pivotal for the scientific advances of the Renaissance, but for the development of modern science itself. The principles of observation, experimentation, and the search for empirical truth, so deeply embedded in the work of Ibn al-Haytham and his peers, would continue to guide scientists for centuries to come, shaping the world we live in today. The study of light and vision, which had long been a mix of philosophical musing and empirical observation, truly came into its own as a formal field of study during the Islamic Golden Age. The transformation of optics from an abstract subject into a structured discipline was a revolutionary shift that would not only influence the development of science and technology in the medieval period, but also shape the future of physics, engineering, and medicine. This was the moment when optics, the scientific study of light, emerged as a coherent and systematic field. The groundwork for optics as a distinct scientific field was laid by the work of scholars like Ibn al-Haytham, al-Hazan, whose groundbreaking contributions to the understanding of light, vision, and refraction would inspire future generations of scientists. In Ibn al-Haytham's time, the study of light had already seen important advancements in the context of ancient Greek and Roman thought, but it was during the Islamic Golden Age that the study of light was formalized through rigorous experimentation, empirical analysis, and mathematical reasoning. The intellectual environment of the Abbasid Empire, with its cosmopolitan cities like Baghdad and Cairo, created a fertile ground for the birth of optics as a true scientific discipline. One of the most significant factors in the development of optics during this period was the cross-pollination of ideas between various scientific fields. Scholars who specialized in mathematics, astronomy, philosophy, and medicine worked together to explore the properties of light and how it interacted with the natural world. These interdisciplinary exchanges allowed for the development of sophisticated theories about light's behavior, especially its reflection, refraction, and transmission. Ibn al-Haytham's work, especially his Book of Optics, played a pivotal role in the formalization of optics as a scientific discipline. His empirical approach, based on observation, experimentation, and mathematical reasoning, was revolutionary for its time. He took the findings of earlier scholars and tested them through controlled experiments, applying rigorous scientific methodology to the study of light. Ibn al-Haytham's insistence on reproducibility, the idea that experiments must yield consistent results if they are to be valid, became a cornerstone of modern scientific practice. His Book of Optics was the first comprehensive work on the study of light and vision, bringing together everything known about optics up to that point, while also offering new, original insights. Ibn al-Haytham's work covered a wide range of topics, from the nature of light and colour to the mechanics of vision and the properties of lenses and mirrors. For the first time, these concepts were presented systematically and with an eye toward experimental verification. The Book of Optics was not just a theoretical treatise, it was a hands-on guide for future researchers, providing them with the tools and methodologies to conduct their own experiments. One of the most important contributions of Ibn al-Haytham's work was the introduction of the scientific method into the study of optics. Before Ibn al-Haytham, the study of light and vision had been more speculative, with philosophers offering explanations based on reasoning and intuition. Ibn al-Haytham, however, pioneered an approach based on empirical testing. He argued that theories should be subjected to practical experiments and that the results of these experiments should guide further theoretical development. This approach would lay the foundation for the modern scientific method, which remains central to all branches of science today. Ibn al-Haytham's work in optics would influence the development of other scientific fields. His findings on the properties of light and vision had direct implications for astronomy and medicine. In astronomy, the study of light allowed astronomers to improve their understanding of the movement of celestial bodies. The principles of light reflection and refraction that Ibn al-Haytham uncovered would later be used in the construction of telescopes that would allow astronomers like Galileo and Kepler to peer deeper into the cosmos and make revolutionary discoveries about the nature of the universe. In medicine, his work in vision would eventually lead to the development of surgical instruments for eye care and ophthalmology, allowing for advances in cataract surgery and the development of glasses. The formalization of optics as a scientific field also had profound effects on the technological advancements of the time. The understanding of light's behavior led directly to the creation of practical optical devices such as mirrors, lenses, and magnifying glasses. These devices would go on to shape not just the fields of astronomy and medicine, but also art and engineering. For example, the use of mirrors and lenses in early telescopes and microscopes helped open new realms of discovery, allowing scientists to explore the macroscopic world of distant galaxies and the microscopic world of living organisms. The work of Ibn al-Haytham and his contemporaries marked a crucial turning point in the history of science. The study of optics, which had once been a matter of theoretical speculation, had now become a formalized empirical field. Scholars in the Islamic world had created the foundation upon which the Renaissance would build, fueling a wave of discoveries in science and technology that would change the world. This shift in scientific thinking was one of the key drivers of the scientific revolution, which would eventually lead to the modern scientific world we inhabit today. The establishment of optics as a formal field of study was not only a significant achievement in itself, it also marked a paradigm shift in how we approach the natural world. The principles of light, vision, and optics would go on to influence the development of many other fields, from physics and chemistry to philosophy and art. The scientific rigour with which Ibn al-Haytham approached the study of light would become a model for future scientists, pushing them to look at the world not through the lens of mythology or speculation, but through careful observation, experimentation, and analysis. By the end of the medieval period, the work of Ibn al-Haytham and other scholars had firmly established optics as a field of science that was recognised and studied across the world. The foundational principles of light and vision that were discovered during this period would eventually lead to the technological advancements of the modern age. From the creation of cameras to the invention of fibre optics and lasers, the birth of optics as a scientific discipline was not just an intellectual triumph, it was the start of a scientific revolution that would shape the course of human history. The intellectual legacy of the Islamic Golden Age had a profound and lasting influence on the Renaissance, a period of rebirth and intellectual awakening in Europe. While the Renaissance is often celebrated for its artistic and cultural achievements, it was also a time of incredible scientific exploration and discovery. The rediscovery of ancient Greek and Roman knowledge, combined with the transmission of scientific advancements from the Islamic world, formed the backbone of Renaissance thought. Among the most significant of these transmissions were the works of Ibn al-Haytham and his contemporaries, whose contributions to the study of light, optics, and vision would directly influence key thinkers of the Renaissance. The works of Ibn al-Haytham, al-Hazan, were among the most widely studied in medieval Europe, particularly his Book of Optics. This text, which detailed the behaviour of light, the nature of vision, and the scientific method, was translated into Latin in the 12th century and circulated widely among European scholars. It was not simply the ideas that Ibn al-Haytham presented that had an impact, it was also the methodology he employed. His approach to empirical observation and scientific experimentation became a model for future Renaissance thinkers, who would adopt his principles to investigate the natural world. One of the most influential Renaissance figures to be inspired by Ibn al-Haytham's work was Roger Bacon, an English philosopher and scientist. Bacon was deeply fascinated by the study of light and optics, and was well aware of the advances made by his predecessors in the Islamic world. He acknowledged the contributions of Ibn al-Haytham, whom he referred to as the greatest master of optics. Bacon's own work on lenses and magnification was directly influenced by Ibn al-Haytham's experiments with light and his development of the pinhole camera. Bacon's insistence on empirical methods and systematic observation, as well as his use of optics in scientific inquiry, mirrored Ibn al-Haytham's pioneering approach. The influence of Islamic optics also extended to Johannes Kepler, one of the most important figures in the development of modern astronomy. Kepler, who is best known for his laws of planetary motion, built upon Ibn al-Haytham's understanding of light and vision. Kepler's work on the human eye and his geometrical understanding of light and vision was grounded in the foundations laid by Ibn al-Haytham. In fact, Kepler's study of the refraction of light through lenses was heavily influenced by Ibn al-Haytham's discoveries about how light bends when passing through different mediums. Kepler's astronomical observations and his development of the reflecting telescope were directly linked to the principles of light reflection and refraction first established by Ibn al-Haytham. Similarly, Leonardo da Vinci, a true Renaissance polymath, was also influenced by the scientific work of the Islamic world. Da Vinci's deep interest in optics and human vision is evident in his studies of the eye, his investigations into perspective in art, and his exploration of light and shadow. Da Vinci's experiments in creating realistic visual representations in his paintings were inspired by the principles of light reflection and refraction that he studied from earlier scholars, including Ibn al-Haytham. His famous Vitruvian Man, a study of human proportions, also reflects an understanding of how light interacts with the human body, especially the eye, which is crucial for perceiving the world. Nicholas Copernicus, the renowned astronomer who revolutionized our understanding of the universe by proposing the heliocentric model, also drew on the work of earlier Islamic scholars. Copernicus's model of the solar system was influenced by the work of al-Battani and Ibn al-Haytham, whose precise astronomical observations helped Copernicus refine his own theories. Although Copernicus's focus was primarily on the movement of the planets, His ability to measure and calculate planetary positions was made possible by the groundwork laid by Islamic astronomers. The ability to observe and measure celestial phenomena using the principles of light and optics was central to the advancements Copernicus made in his study of the stars and planets. The scientific method, which became the hallmark of Renaissance inquiry, was directly inspired by Ibn al-Haytham's rigorous approach to experimentation. Galileo Galilei, perhaps the most famous Renaissance scientist, is often credited with formalizing the scientific method. However, Galileo himself acknowledged the debt he owed to earlier scholars, including Ibn al-Haytham. Galileo's development of the telescope and his use of lenses for astronomical observation were deeply influenced by the work of Ibn al-Haytham, whose understanding of light's reflection and refraction laid the foundation for the development of optical instruments. Like Ibn al-Haytham, Galileo relied on empirical data and experimental evidence to validate his theories, a hallmark of the scientific method. It was during the Renaissance that the study of optics, previously confined to the Islamic world, became a fundamental part of European scientific and intellectual life. The work of Islamic scholars, including Ibn al-Haytham, was introduced to European scholars through translation and commentary, and it began to influence scientific thought in fields ranging from astronomy and mathematics to medicine and art. The Renaissance, fueled by the rediscovery of ancient and Islamic knowledge, marked the beginning of a new era in scientific thought, one where empirical observation and mathematical reasoning began to replace superstition and speculation. The influence of Ibn al-Haytham's optical theories also extended into the arts. Renaissance painters, influenced by the study of light and perspective, began to incorporate more realistic depictions of light and shadow into their works. The famous works of Caravaggio, Rembrandt, and other painters of the time showcase a masterful use of light and shadow to create depth and realism. The principles of light reflection and refraction, which had been developed by Ibn al-Haytham and his contemporaries, became key components in the development of chiaroscuro, a technique that used contrasting light and dark to evoke emotion and create realistic effects in painting. The impact of Ibn al-Haytham's work on optics was far-reaching. By laying the foundation for the study of light and vision, he provided the intellectual tools for future generations of scientists, artists, and thinkers. His contributions to the understanding of light, refraction, and vision directly influenced the major breakthroughs of the Renaissance, from the invention of the telescope to the development of realistic art techniques. The spread of Ibn al-Haytham's ideas helped spark a scientific revolution that changed the way we view the world and our place in it, ultimately shaping the intellectual landscape of the modern world. The study of light, while grounded in science and mathematics, had a profound impact on the arts, particularly during the Renaissance. One of the most remarkable legacies of the work done by scholars like Ibn al-Haytham was its influence on the way artists understood and depicted light. Before the Renaissance, artists largely relied on intuition and symbolic representations of light, but the discovery of the principles of light reflection, refraction, and shadow brought about a seismic shift in how light was used to create depth, realism, and emotion in art. Ibn al-Haytham's pioneering work on optics, particularly his exploration of how light reflects off surfaces and enters the eye, laid the foundation for artists to experiment with the physical properties of light in their work. While many of Ibn al-Haytham's theories were initially directed toward the scientific understanding of vision and light, the practical applications of these discoveries extended into painting and sculpture, profoundly influencing artists who were striving to capture the true nature of the world around them. The principle of chiaroscuro, the technique of using strong contrasts between light and dark to create a sense of volume and depth, became one of the most important tools for artists during the Renaissance. Artists like Caravaggio, Rembrandt, and Leonardo da Vinci employed chiaroscuro to create highly realistic depictions of human figures, landscapes, and still lifes. This technique was grounded in an understanding of how light behaves, how it reflects off surfaces, casts shadows, and highlights certain features. The use of light in their works was not merely decorative, but a deliberate method to add emotional depth and intensity to the subject matter. The rediscovery of perspective during the Renaissance was also deeply connected to the study of light. Just as artists learned how to depict three-dimensional space on a two-dimensional surface using linear perspective, they began to understand how light played a crucial role in conveying depth and form. the direction and intensity of light could alter the perception of space, creating a sense of depth that was as mathematically precise as the linear perspective itself. The study of how light interacts with surfaces, whether through reflections, shadows or highlights, allowed artists to push the boundaries of realism. Leonardo da Vinci was one of the most prominent artists to incorporate the scientific principles of optics into his work. Da Vinci's study of light and shadow was grounded in his understanding of Ibn al-Haytham's theories about how light reflected and refracted through different surfaces. His works, including The Last Supper and the Mona Lisa, showcase his extraordinary mastery of light, especially in how it interacts with the human figure. In these works, light is used to create realistic volumes and textures, from the folds of clothing to the curvature of faces and hands. Leonardo's use of light also imbued his subjects with a sense of life and motion, capturing not just their physical form but their emotional depth. In Rembrandt, light is not merely a tool for realism, but an emotional force that shapes the psychological depth of his portraits. Rembrandt's ability to create dramatic contrasts of light and shadow, often referred to as Rembrandt lighting, is perhaps his most recognisable contribution to the art of portraiture. His use of light seemed almost sculptural, carving out the form of his subjects with a vivid intensity that invited the viewer to engage with their inner world. In many of his works, light serves as a symbol, drawing attention to the subject's emotional state, whether it be contemplation, sorrow, or triumph. Rembrandt's portrayal of light reflects the knowledge of how it works, but also elevates it to a level where it transcends mere physicality to evoke a deeper, almost spiritual resonance. The Dutch Golden Age, a period in the 17th century, saw another revolution in the use of light in art, influenced by the work of Ibn al-Haytham and Renaissance thinkers. Artists like Vermeer used light not only to define the contours of objects, but to capture the atmosphere of a moment. In Vermeer's iconic painting, Girl with a Pearl Earring, the subtle interplay of light on the face of the subject not only highlights her features but also conveys her emotional presence, making her appear almost alive. Vermeer's mastery of light was rooted in his understanding of its gradual transitions, from bright illumination to soft shadow, and its ability to convey subtle gradations of emotion. The study of optics also extended to colour theory, another field deeply influenced by the understanding of light. Ibn al-Haytham's early investigations into how light interacts with objects and how colours are perceived laid the foundation for later developments in the understanding of colour. Artists in the Renaissance and beyond used the principles of colour mixing and light absorption to create vibrant, naturalistic depictions of the world around them. The knowledge that colours are reflections of light, rather than inherent properties of objects, allowed artists to capture a more realistic spectrum of hues and tones. The role of light in art was not limited to painting alone. Sculptors also embraced the principles of light reflection and refraction in their work. Artists like Michelangelo understood that the interplay of light on the surfaces of sculptures could reveal the volume and texture of the material. Michelangelo's David, for instance, isn't just a marble statue. It's a dynamic interplay of light and shadow, with the sculptor using light to highlight the tension in the figure's muscles, the smoothness of the marble, and the emotional depth of the figure. The ability to manipulate light also influenced architecture during the Renaissance. Architects like Filippo Brunelleschi and Leon Battista Alberti were profoundly influenced by the study of how light could define space. They designed buildings with careful consideration of how light would enter the structure, casting shadows and highlights that would enhance the sense of space and perspective. The use of light wells, windows, and dome structures helped to create dynamic and functional spaces that were also aesthetically striking. The architectural use of light, whether it was the play of light through a stained glass window or the focused beam of sunlight in a grand hall, became an essential aspect of Renaissance design. What we see in Renaissance art is a profound union of science and creativity. The scientific study of light, which began with the work of Ibn al-Haytham and continued through the Renaissance, provided artists with the tools to enhance their craft, turning what had once been a basic symbolic element into a dynamic force capable of shaping both the physical and emotional worlds of their subjects. By understanding how light works, how it reflects, refracts, and interacts with the world, artists could now manipulate it to convey depth, emotion, and reality in their work. This transformation in the use of light would go on to influence countless generations of artists, scientists, and thinkers, creating a legacy that continues to shape our visual world today. In this way, light, once a mysterious and divine force in the ancient world, became a powerful and practical tool that connected science, art, and human experience. The study of light opened the doors to a new visual language, one that artists, architects, and scientists would use for centuries to come, forever changing the way we see the world and ourselves. The study of light, with its profound and transformative impact on our understanding of vision, did not just remain confined to theoretical pursuits. As scholars like Ibn al-Haytham and his contemporaries explored how light behaves, how it reflects and refracts, they unknowingly laid the foundation for some of the most revolutionary inventions in the history of science, the telescope and the microscope. These two instruments would not only expand the reach of human perception, but would forever change our understanding of the microscopic and macroscopic worlds, allowing humanity to peer into the most distant corners of the universe and the deepest realms of living organisms. While the telescope and microscope were not inventions of the Islamic Golden Age itself, the foundational principles of light that were explored by Ibn al-Haytham provided the scientific basis for the creation of these instruments. Ibn al-Haytham's work on light reflection, refraction, and lenses directly influenced the development of telescopic and microscopic technology, as scientists sought to manipulate light in new ways to see beyond the limits of the naked eye. The telescope, in particular, would revolutionize our understanding of the cosmos. Though the concept of a magnifying glass had been known for centuries, it wasn't until the early 17th century that the telescope began to take shape as an optical instrument, capable of examining distant celestial bodies. The first recorded use of a telescope for astronomical observation came from Galileo Galilei, an Italian scientist who, inspired by the work of earlier thinkers like Ibn al-Haytham, used a simple version of the telescope to observe the stars and planets in unprecedented detail. Galileo's improvements on the telescope allowed him to discover the moons of Jupiter, observe the phases of Venus, and record the surface of the moon in remarkable detail, changing the course of astronomy forever. Galileo's work in optics, however, was directly built upon the principles laid down by Ibn al-Haytham. The understanding of how lenses refracted light, first explored in depth by Ibn al-Haytham, was crucial in the development of the telescope. Galileo's innovation was not in the theory of optics itself, but in his ability to craft lenses with specific focal lengths and incorporate them into telescopic designs. These lenses allowed him to magnify distant objects with incredible precision. The telescope, as a tool for exploration, marked the beginning of an entirely new era of scientific discovery, enabling humanity to explore the heavens in ways previously unimaginable. Similarly, the microscope, which would come to fruition in the early 17th century, would change the way we understood the world of the very small. While Robert Hooke and Anton van Leeuwenhoek are often credited with developing the first true microscopes, the principles of refraction and the manipulation of light that Ibn al-Haytham explored were foundational to these advancements. The microscope allowed scientists to look at objects smaller than the eye could perceive, unlocking an entirely new world. Hooke's famous work Micrographia, 1665, in which he detailed his observations of insects, plant cells, and the structure of materials under the microscope, was a direct result of the theoretical work of earlier scholars. The development of both the telescope and microscope marked a new phase in scientific history, one where human vision, once limited to what the naked eye could see, was no longer a constraint. With the help of optics, humanity could now extend its vision to distant galaxies and microscopic organisms, effectively expanding the boundaries of what was knowable. The creation of these tools not only fueled scientific advancements in astronomy and biology, but also sparked new questions about the nature of light itself. How could light travel across vast distances of space? How did light interact with the smallest living organisms like bacteria and cells? These questions, grounded in the study of light, would continue to shape scientific inquiry for centuries to come. The invention of the microscope also had a profound impact on the field of medicine. As physicians began to examine tissues, cells, and microorganisms under the microscope, the study of diseases and infections underwent a dramatic transformation. Early discoveries in microbiology, such as the observation of bacteria and blood cells, would eventually lead to advancements in germ theory and the development of vaccines, antibiotics, and other life-saving medical treatments. These breakthroughs were not only made possible by the invention of the microscope, but also by the theoretical work that had come before it, work that had explored how light interacts with matter, how lenses can magnify images, and how the study of light itself could be harnessed to unlock the mysteries of the living world. Moreover, the microscope also provided insights into the nature of life itself, opening up a new realm of biological research. Anton van Leeuwenhoek, a Dutch scientist, became famous for his microscopic observations of single-celled organisms, which he called animalcules. His work in the late 17th century helped to establish the foundation of cell biology and microbiology. By manipulating lenses and refining techniques for magnification, Leeuwenhoek's discoveries contributed to the understanding of living organisms in ways that would shape modern biology, leading to the eventual development of fields like genetics, cell theory, and biochemistry. While the telescope and microscope are often associated with specific inventors and technological advancements, their underlying principles are rooted in centuries of exploration and thought. The principles of light, how it refracts, reflects, and travels through different mediums, were all pioneered by early scientists like Ibn al-Haytham. His work laid the groundwork for the optical technology that would later become essential in both astronomical and biological discoveries. The telescopes and microscopes developed in the 17th century were not just new instruments, they were the culmination of centuries of work, from ancient theories of light to the rigorous empirical methods pioneered during the Islamic Golden Age. The implications of these inventions were not confined to science alone, they sparked an intellectual revolution. The ability to magnify distant stars and microscopic life created a new perspective on the world and the universe. The study of light, once purely theoretical, had become a gateway to exploring space, matter, and life itself. These inventions marked the beginning of modern physics, biology, and astronomy, and their impact would ripple across centuries, leading to the technological revolution of the 20th and 21st centuries. In this way, the telescope and microscope became not just tools of discovery, but symbols of humanity's relentless pursuit of knowledge, tools that allowed us to explore both the vast reaches of the cosmos and the hidden depths of the smallest living creatures. These instruments, born from the study of light, opened the door to a new era of scientific understanding, one that would continue to evolve and shape our view of the universe and the natural world. The study of light, which began in the hands of ancient philosophers and was refined through centuries of scientific inquiry, has evolved into one of the most critical fields in modern science and technology. From the groundbreaking experiments of Ibn al-Haytham to the invention of the telescope and microscope, optics has led to innovations that have profoundly changed the way we understand and interact with the world. Today, the applications of optics are so ingrained in our daily lives that we often take them for granted. Yet the foundational principles established centuries ago continue to drive progress in fields ranging from medicine and telecommunications to entertainment and defense. One of the most significant applications of optics in the modern world is in the field of medicine. The study of light, refraction, and lenses has revolutionized diagnostic techniques and treatments. Ophthalmology, the branch of medicine focused on the eye, owes much of its advancements to the foundational work of Ibn al-Haytham and his understanding of light and vision. Today, optometrists and ophthalmologists use a wide range of optical instruments to diagnose and treat vision disorders. LASIK surgery, for example, uses lasers, powerful applications of light, to reshape the cornea and correct refractive errors like nearsightedness and farsightedness, offering patients the possibility of near-perfect vision without glasses or contacts. The principles of optical coherence tomography, OCT, have further advanced medical imaging, enabling doctors to take detailed cross-sectional images of the retina and other tissues inside the eye. This non-invasive technology relies on the ability to measure the way light interacts with different layers of the tissue, providing insights that were once impossible to obtain. The work of Ibn al-Haytham, who explored the way light is absorbed and reflected, laid the groundwork for modern diagnostic tools that can peer inside the human body with unmatched precision. Beyond the field of ophthalmology, optics also plays a crucial role in endoscopy, a technique used in surgery and diagnostics to view the interior of the body. Fibre optic cables, which are based on the principles of light refraction and total internal reflection, allow doctors to insert flexible tubes with cameras into the body, facilitating minimally invasive surgeries and diagnostics. The development of these technologies was directly influenced by the study of light's behaviour and its ability to travel through mediums like glass fibres. In telecommunications, optics has had a revolutionary impact, particularly in the development of fibre optics. Fibre optic cables, which transmit data in the form of light signals, have enabled the rapid expansion of high-speed internet, telephone and television services. Unlike traditional copper cables, fibre optics are capable of transmitting large amounts of data over long distances with little signal loss. The ability to manipulate light through fibre optic technology relies heavily on the principles of refraction and total internal reflection, concepts that Ibn al-Haytham and later scientists like Augustin Jean Fresnel helped to refine. Today, fibre optics form the backbone of global communication networks, connecting continents and allowing for instant access to information across the world. In the field of entertainment, optics has played a transformative role in the development of cameras, television, and virtual reality, VR. The modern camera, whether it's a smartphone camera or a professional film camera, operates on the principles of lenses and light sensors, which focus light onto a surface to capture an image. The creation of realistic imagery, whether in film, television, or computer graphics, depends on the ability to manipulate light to create depth, shadows, and highlights. In VR, the rendering of virtual environments relies on complex optical algorithms to simulate how light interacts with surfaces, creating immersive, lifelike experiences. The work of scientists like Ibn al-Haytham, who demonstrated how light can be manipulated to form images, laid the foundation for technologies that make today's cinematic experiences possible. The manipulation of light through lenses and light sensors has not only enabled the capture of images but also made it possible to project them onto screens with high precision and clarity, revolutionizing how we experience visual media. Lasers, one of the most groundbreaking inventions of the 20th century, are another direct application of optical principles. A laser, light amplification by stimulated emission of radiation, is a device that produces a concentrated beam of light. Lasers are used in a wide range of applications, from surgery to barcode scanning, from communication to manufacturing. In medicine, lasers are used for precise surgeries, such as in eye treatments like LASIK, as well as for cutting through tissue with minimal damage to surrounding areas. Lasers are also used in microscopy to study cells and bacteria at high magnifications, allowing scientists to see the finest details of biological structures. The development of quantum optics, a field that examines the quantum nature of light, is another remarkable advancement in the modern study of optics. Quantum optics explores how light behaves at the subatomic level, and it is leading to new technologies in quantum computing and quantum communication. By understanding how light interacts with atoms and molecules, scientists are developing new methods of storing and transmitting information in ways that were once thought to be impossible. The work in quantum optics today builds directly on the principles of light first, explored by Ibn al-Haytham, as well as later developments in the understanding of photons and the behaviour of light in quantum systems. The implications of optics are also being felt in defence and security technologies. Laser weapons, for example, are being developed as a means of targeting and disabling enemy vehicles, aircraft or missiles with precise beams of light. These weapons work by focusing high-energy light onto a target, disrupting or destroying it. Additionally, optical technologies are used in surveillance, where infrared sensors and night vision goggles allow soldiers and security personnel to see in complete darkness by detecting infrared light emitted by objects. This type of light detection relies on the principles of light absorption and reflection, as well as the infrared spectrum concepts grounded in the early studies of light. In astronomy, optics has allowed humanity to peer further into the universe than ever before. Modern telescopes, including space telescopes like Hubble, utilize advanced lenses and mirrors to capture light from distant stars, galaxies, and nebulae, providing unprecedented images of the cosmos. The study of light from distant stars has allowed scientists to measure the age, composition, and distance of celestial bodies, while helping to shape our understanding of the Big Bang and the expansion of the universe. The ability to capture and manipulate light from deep space was made possible by the study of reflection, refraction, and focus, principles first rigorously explored by Ibn al-Haytham and later expanded upon by astronomers and physicists. The modern applications of optics are vast and diverse, spanning industries and technologies that were once unimaginable. From medical lasers to fibre optic communication, From virtual reality to space exploration, the principles of light first uncovered by Ibn al-Haytham continue to shape the world we live in today. His contributions laid the foundation for technologies that are integral to both our daily lives and our understanding of the universe, marking his legacy as one of the most influential figures in the history of science. The continuing study and manipulation of light hold the promise of even greater advancements. Whether in the realm of quantum technology, space exploration, or medical treatments, the pursuit of understanding light's behaviour remains at the cutting edge of scientific research. Ibn al-Haytham's work, which began as a search for answers about the nature of light, continues to fuel discoveries that will shape the future of humanity for generations to come. The study of light has come a long way since the time of Ibn al-Haytham, whose work laid the foundations for understanding the behaviour of light through reflection, refraction, and lenses. Over the centuries, scientific inquiry into the nature of light evolved from empirical observation to more abstract theories that would eventually culminate in the development of quantum physics, a revolutionary field that has reshaped our understanding of the universe at its most fundamental level. In the modern era, the principles of light that Ibn al-Haytham and others discovered have paved the way for the exploration of light as a quantum phenomenon, opening new frontiers in physics and technology. In the early 20th century, quantum theory began to emerge, fundamentally altering how scientists thought about light. While light had been understood as a wave, capable of reflection, refraction, and diffraction, this new theory proposed that light could also behave as a particle, a photon. This duality of light, behaving both as a wave and as a particle, was one of the most astonishing and groundbreaking aspects of quantum physics. The shift from classical to quantum physics was not just a reimagining of light's behaviour, it was a complete overhaul of the way we understood the physical world itself. One of the first to challenge classical ideas of light was Max Planck, whose work in the early 1900s led to the concept of quantized energy levels. Planck's studies on blackbody radiation suggested that energy is not emitted or absorbed in a continuous manner, but in discrete packets, what he called quanta. This concept, which would later be extended to light, showed that light exists as a particle-like entity, with each particle carrying a specific amount of energy. Planck's idea was a crucial step toward the development of quantum mechanics, and marked the beginning of a new era in the study of light. The idea of light as a particle was further developed by Albert Einstein, whose photoelectric effect experiment in 1905 provided strong evidence that light behaves like a particle. Einstein showed that when light strikes a material, it can knock electrons loose from the surface, an effect that could only be explained if light consisted of discrete packets of energy, or photons. This discovery earned Einstein the Nobel Prize in Physics, and opened the door to a new understanding of light, one that combined both wave-like and particle-like properties. The dual nature of light, its ability to behave as both a wave and a particle, would become one of the cornerstones of quantum theory. Einstein's work on the photoelectric effect was a significant step forward in the understanding of light, but it was only the beginning. The full implications of light's behaviour were explored further by Niels Bohr, Werner Heisenberg, and Louis de Broglie, who helped to develop the quantum mechanical model of the atom. In this new model, electrons were described not as particles orbiting the nucleus in fixed paths, but as existing in clouds of probability, a fundamentally different way of thinking about the behaviour of matter and light. The quantum mechanical view of light introduced the idea that light, in its particle form, has both energy and momentum, and can exhibit wave-particle duality, meaning it can behave as both a wave and a particle depending on how it is observed. The wave-particle duality of light would become a central concept in quantum mechanics, where the nature of particles and waves became fundamentally intertwined. Quantum electrodynamics, QED, developed by physicists like Richard Feynman and Julian Schwinger, provided a framework for understanding how light interacts with matter at the quantum level. Through QED, scientists were able to explain complex phenomena such as laser operation, light-matter interactions, and the behaviour of light in electromagnetic fields. The study of light in quantum mechanics not only led to a deeper understanding of light itself, but also unlocked technologies that have transformed the world. One of the most profound consequences of quantum physics and light is the invention of lasers. Lasers, which operate based on the principles of stimulated emission, an idea rooted in the quantum mechanical description of light, are used in a wide variety of fields. from medicine to telecommunications, from manufacturing to entertainment. The development of the laser was made possible by the realization that light could be amplified and focused in a controlled manner using quantum principles. The laser's ability to produce coherent light with a single wavelength has had a profound impact on data storage, surgery, communication, and entertainment, to name just a few areas. Lasers, which depend on the behavior of light as both a wave and a particle, are a testament to the power of quantum physics and the ongoing legacy of light study. The study of light also played a critical role in the development of fiber optics, which revolutionized telecommunications. By understanding how light behaves in fiber optic cables, how it reflects and refracts through the glass fibers, scientists were able to develop a technology that could carry vast amounts of data over long distances with minimal loss. Fiber optic communication has transformed the way we communicate, enabling the internet, telephone systems, and television networks to operate at the speed and scale we rely on today. Fiber optic cables carry light signals across continents, enabling instantaneous communication across the globe. The transmission of data as light pulses in optical fibers is one of the most practical applications of the quantum nature of light. The work of Ibn al-Haytham, who laid the groundwork for the study of light's reflection, refraction, and transmission, has resonated through the centuries, influencing the development of quantum physics and its profound applications. The study of light, from Ibn al-Haytham's early experiments to the quantum mechanics of today, has provided the scientific foundation for some of the most transformative technologies in human history. Today, light is at the center of cutting-edge fields such as quantum computing and quantum cryptography. Quantum computing, which relies on the principles of quantum mechanics, uses quantum bits, qubits, to perform calculations far faster than traditional computers. Light is used in quantum communication systems to create secure communication channels, where the properties of photons can ensure that data cannot be intercepted without detection. These emerging fields are only possible because of the breakthroughs in the understanding of light that began centuries ago. Looking back, the journey of understanding light, from its early role as a symbol of knowledge and divinity, through the empirical discoveries of scholars like Ibn al-Haytham, to the revolutionary breakthroughs in quantum physics, has been nothing short of transformative. The study of light continues to be one of the most exciting and dynamic fields in modern science, leading to new discoveries and technologies that will shape the future of humanity. The study of light, from its origins in ancient philosophies to its modern scientific applications, has not only transformed the way we perceive the physical world, but has also profoundly influenced culture, religion, and philosophy. Light has always held symbolic significance in human history, serving as a metaphor for knowledge, truth, spirituality, and life itself. The work of scholars like Ibn al-Haytham, who formalized the study of optics, was not merely a scientific revolution. It was also a cultural milestone that reshaped how humans understood their relationship with the world, the universe, and themselves. In many ancient cultures, light was viewed as a divine force, essential for both life and knowledge. The Egyptians revered the sun as the god Ra, whose daily journey across the sky symbolized the cycle of life, death, and rebirth. For the Egyptians, light was a force of creation, embodying not only physical illumination but also spiritual enlightenment. Light was seen as a link between the divine and the earthly, and temples and monuments were often oriented to align with the sun's rays, marking significant moments in the cosmic and religious calendar. Similarly, in Greek philosophy, light was not only seen as a physical phenomenon, but also as a metaphor for intellectual and spiritual illumination. Plato's famous allegory of the cave used light as a central symbol, suggesting that only by escaping the darkness of ignorance and stepping into the light of knowledge could a person truly perceive the world in its true form. For Plato, light represented the realm of the forms, the perfect and immutable truths that existed beyond the material world. The act of seeing, therefore, was not just a physical process, it was a spiritual awakening, a journey toward enlightenment and understanding. The early studies of light by thinkers like Pythagoras and Aristotle influenced these symbolic interpretations, as they sought to understand not just how light works, but what it represents. Light, in these early theories, was often seen as something that connected the human soul to the divine, as it allowed for the perception of the external world, which was thought to be a reflection of higher truths. The belief that light was both a physical force and a symbolic representation of higher knowledge would persist throughout history, influencing religious and philosophical thought. As Ibn al-Haytham and other Islamic scholars made their groundbreaking discoveries about light, reflection, and vision, they were not only advancing science, they were also shifting the way cultures around the world viewed the natural world. Ibn al-Haytham's work in optics, particularly his emphasis on empirical evidence and scientific experimentation, challenged long-held beliefs about light that were grounded in mysticism and speculative philosophy. His approach laid the groundwork for the idea that knowledge should be derived from observation, reason, and testing, a notion that would later be central to the scientific revolution and influence the intellectual climate of the Enlightenment. During the Renaissance, light became a powerful tool for artists and philosophers to explore the nature of reality. The study of light's properties, as articulated by Ibn al-Haytham, enabled artists like Leonardo da Vinci and Caravaggio to incorporate more realistic representations of the world in their paintings. Light became a vehicle for conveying emotions, creating depth, and giving form to the human experience. The Renaissance's fascination with light was not limited to the visual arts. It also influenced literature, philosophy, and theology. Writers and thinkers began to explore the metaphysical implications of light, drawing on its symbolic significance to question the nature of reality and the human condition. Light was also seen as a symbol of knowledge during the Enlightenment, the intellectual movement that championed reason, science, and individual rights. The Enlightenment thinkers viewed knowledge and understanding as the ultimate forms of illumination, and light became a metaphor for intellectual freedom and progress. The term enlightenment itself evokes the idea of stepping out of the darkness of ignorance and into the clarity of knowledge, much like the ancient metaphors of light and truth. This period saw the development of scientific rationalism, where light was no longer viewed as just a physical entity, but as a symbol of the power of reason and observation to uncover the mysteries of the natural world. In religious contexts, light continued to hold deep symbolic meaning. In Christianity, for example, light is often associated with God's presence, divine truth, and salvation. The Bible is filled with references to light, such as the famous line from the Gospel of John, "I am the light of the world." In Christianity, light represents the transcendence of divine grace over the darkness of sin and ignorance. The use of light in Christian liturgy, in the form of candles and stained glass windows, also underscores the symbolic connection between light and the divine. In this sense, the study of light became intertwined with religious thought, as it was often used to symbolize God's illumination of the soul. In Eastern religions, light also holds a powerful spiritual meaning. In Hinduism, for example, light is often associated with the divine and the transformative power of knowledge. The Diwali festival, known as the Festival of Lights, celebrates the victory of good over evil, light over darkness, and knowledge over ignorance. The lighting of lamps during this festival is seen as a way to invite divine light into the home and life, symbolizing spiritual awakening. Similarly, in Buddhism, light is a symbol of enlightenment, the spiritual insight that leads to the end of suffering. The Buddha is often depicted seated in the midst of light, symbolizing his attainment of ultimate truth. The symbolism of light continues to be a major theme in literature and art. Throughout history, light has been used as a powerful metaphor for knowledge, truth, hope, and transformation. In literature, authors often use light to represent the awakening of the human spirit or the arrival of a new understanding. Writers like William Blake and John Milton have used light as a symbol of divine inspiration, as well as a means of personal and collective enlightenment. In modern cinema, light is still used to evoke a range of emotions and meanings, from the stark, harsh light of film noir, which often represents moral ambiguity, to the soft, warm glow in movies that explore themes of hope and redemption. The cultural impact of light is not limited to religion and art. It also has a profound influence on philosophy. Light continues to be used as a metaphor for understanding and enlightenment in the works of philosophers like Immanuel Kant and Georg Wilhelm Friedrich Hegel, who explored the notion of light as a vehicle for human cognition and reason. The connection between light and knowledge in philosophy has deep roots, and it remains central to how we think about the human capacity for reason, understanding, and spiritual growth. In the modern world, the role of light extends beyond its metaphysical significance to its practical applications. Light is at the heart of technological advancements that have transformed our daily lives. Lasers, fibre optics, and digital screens all rely on the manipulation of light to function. Yet, even as light becomes a symbol of scientific progress and technological innovation, its cultural and symbolic significance remains strong. From the soft glow of a lamp that provides comfort and warmth to the dazzling brilliance of a streetlight guiding us home, light continues to shape the way we live and think. The study of light, from its early philosophical and symbolic meanings to its scientific exploration, in the hands of Ibn al-Haytham and modern physicists, has permeated every aspect of human culture. Whether as a representation of divine knowledge, a metaphor for intellectual awakening, or a driving force behind technological innovation, light continues to illuminate not just our world but our minds and spirits. The study of light has not only shaped our understanding of the physical world, but has also driven some of the most groundbreaking technological advances of the modern era. From the development of lasers to fiber optic communication, from digital displays to solar energy, light plays an essential role in the technologies that power our everyday lives. The principles of optics, which began with early investigations by scholars like Ibn al-Haytham, have given rise to a wide array of innovations that have transformed industries, economies, and societies. As science and technology have evolved, light has remained at the heart of the innovations that continue to shape the future. One of the most powerful applications of light in modern technology is the laser. The laser, light amplification by stimulated emission of radiation, has revolutionized countless fields, from medicine to communications, from manufacturing to entertainment. The invention of the laser in the 1960s marked the culmination of centuries of study of light's properties. The concept of coherent light, in which light waves travel in phase with one another, was made possible by advances in quantum mechanics, and it was directly influenced by earlier work on the behavior of light. Lasers are used in surgical procedures to cut through tissue with extreme precision, with minimal damage to surrounding areas. Laser eye surgeries, like LASIK, have become a common method for correcting vision, allowing millions of people to achieve better eyesight without glasses or contact lenses. The precision of lasers is essential in modern cancer treatments, where they can be used to target tumours with minimal invasiveness. In dental procedures, lasers allow for the removal of decay or the reshaping of tissue with incredible accuracy. Lasers also play a crucial role in data storage. Compact discs, CDs, digital versatile discs, DVDs, and Blu-ray discs all rely on laser technology to read and write information. By using lasers to encode and retrieve data stored as patterns of light on the surface of the disc, these technologies have revolutionized how we store and access digital information. The development of laser technologies for data storage has led to high-definition video and digital music, transforming the entertainment industry and revolutionizing how content is consumed. Another revolutionary application of light is in fiber optic communication. Fiber optic cables, which use light to transmit data over long distances, have transformed the field of telecommunications. The ability to send data as light signals allows for vastly higher data transmission speeds than traditional electrical cables, while also reducing signal degradation over long distances. Fiber optic networks now form the backbone of global communication systems, enabling the internet, television and telephone services to operate at speeds and scales that were once unimaginable. The invention of fiber optics can be traced back to the early principles of light refraction that Ibn al-Haytham studied. His understanding of how light bends when passing through different materials laid the groundwork for the development of fiber optic cables. By utilizing total internal reflection, light can be guided through the core of a glass or plastic fiber, traveling at incredible speeds without significant loss of signal. Today, fiber optic technology powers everything from high-speed internet to global communications, underpinning the digital revolution that is reshaping our world. Solar energy is another area where the study of light has had profound implications. As concerns over fossil fuels and climate change have grown, scientists and engineers have turned to the sun, our most abundant source of light and energy, as a solution. Solar panels, which convert sunlight into electricity, are a direct application of the principles of light absorption and conversion. The ability to harness solar energy to generate power is a crucial step in the transition to renewable energy sources. Photovoltaic cells, which are used in solar panels, work by absorbing light and using it to generate an electric current. The development of solar energy technologies has been driven by advancements in material science and optics, particularly the understanding of how light interacts with different substances. The study of how semiconductors respond to light has led to the creation of highly efficient solar cells that can generate electricity even in low light conditions. As solar energy continues to advance, it holds the potential to provide sustainable and clean energy to power homes, businesses and industries around the world. In photography, the manipulation of light has given rise to one of the most important technologies in modern history. The camera, which captures images through the use of light-sensitive materials or sensors, has undergone dramatic changes since its invention in the 19th century. Today, digital cameras use light sensors, such as CCD or CMOS sensors, to capture images, converting light into electrical signals that are then processed into digital images. These advances in camera technology have revolutionized everything from professional photography to social media, enabling people to capture, share, and preserve moments of their lives with ease. The development of digital imaging also relies heavily on optics. In digital cameras, the lenses focus light onto the image sensor, where it is converted into a digital file. The precision of the lenses and the sensors is essential to creating high-quality images. Smartphones, which now come equipped with powerful cameras, use miniaturized versions of these optical systems to take stunning photographs. The evolution of digital imaging technology continues to push the boundaries of what is possible, enabling higher resolution, faster processing, and improved performance in low-light conditions. Optical sensors also play a vital role in robotics and automation. From autonomous vehicles to industrial robots, optics are used to help machines see and interpret their environment. LiDAR, a technology that uses laser light to measure distances, is used in self-driving cars to map out the surroundings and navigate safely. Optical sensors, which detect light and convert it into digital data, are used in everything from security cameras to 3D scanners, providing crucial information to enhance automation, security and productivity. In military technology, the manipulation of light has played a significant role in the development of weapons and surveillance systems. Laser weapons, which focus high-energy beams of light onto targets, are being developed as potential solutions for shooting down missiles or disabling vehicles with precision. Infrared sensors, which detect heat emitted by objects, are used in night vision goggles and thermal imaging systems to provide visibility in low light or total darkness. These optical technologies are essential for modern military operations, enabling soldiers to detect and engage targets at night or in obscured conditions. Finally, the study of light continues to play a vital role in scientific research. Spectroscopy, which analyzes the light emitted or absorbed by materials, is used to study the chemical composition of substances. By examining the way light interacts with different materials, scientists can identify elements and compounds in distant stars, analyze the composition of unknown substances, or monitor chemical reactions in real time. The ability to analyze light and its properties is crucial to fields ranging from astronomy and chemistry to forensic science and environmental monitoring. The applications of light in modern technology are vast and varied, and they continue to evolve. From communications to energy production, from healthcare to entertainment, light has become a central element in the technologies that shape our world. The principles of reflection, refraction, lenses, and light sensors that were first explored by early scholars like Ibn al-Haytham have been transformed into practical tools that impact nearly every aspect of our lives. The study of light, once confined to the realms of philosophy and experimentation, has become a driving force behind technological innovation that continues to push the boundaries of what is possible. The study of light has had one of the most enduring and transformative legacies in the history of science. From the early explorations by ancient philosophers to the revolutionary work of Ibn al-Haytham, the pursuit of understanding light has shaped not only our physical and technological world, but also our philosophical and cultural frameworks. The legacy of light studies is profound, reaching far beyond the confines of academia, influencing not just science, but also art, medicine, engineering, and society at large. It has served as a bridge between the ancient world and the modern, laying the groundwork for modern physics, technological innovations, and interdisciplinary advances that continue to resonate today. At the heart of this legacy lies Ibn al-Haytham, whose work on optics, vision and light laid the foundation for future discoveries in quantum physics telecommunications, and medicine. By introducing the scientific method to the study of light, through empirical experimentation, mathematical reasoning, and reproducibility, Ibn al-Haytham helped establish a new way of doing science. His work, which bridged the gap between theoretical philosophy and experimental science, inspired generations of scientists who adopted his approach and extended it into fields ranging from astronomy to biology. Ibn al-Haytham's impact is not limited to the realm of optics and light. His emphasis on experimentation and observational science became a model for modern scientific inquiry. The rigour with which he approached his studies, questioning accepted ideas, testing hypotheses, and seeking evidence-based answers, helped catalyse a shift in the way knowledge was produced and validated. This empirical approach would later become the bedrock of modern science, influencing figures like Galileo, Newton, and Einstein, whose work would further revolutionise our understanding of the universe and light itself. Ibn al-Haytham's influence also extended to the development of optics as a formal field. His work provided a systematic framework for understanding the properties of light, including its reflection, refraction, and transmission. These principles were foundational to the later development of optical instruments like the microscope and telescope, instruments that would allow humanity to explore both the farthest reaches of the cosmos and the minutiae of the microscopic world. His legacy, therefore, is not only scientific but also technological, as the tools he inspired have become essential in fields ranging from medicine to communications to space exploration. The invention of the telescope in the 17th century, which allowed Galileo Galilei and others to make groundbreaking observations about the solar system and the universe, was possible due to the foundational principles of optics first established by Ibn al-Haytham. The development of microscopes in the same period opened up new worlds in biology and medicine, enabling scientists like Anton van Leeuwenhoek to observe bacteria and cells for the first time. These discoveries, rooted in Ibn al-Haytham's understanding of light, revolutionized our understanding of both the macrocosm and the microcosm. In medicine, Ibn al-Haytham's work in optics also had a lasting impact. The understanding of how light interacts with the eye and how vision functions laid the groundwork for the development of ophthalmology, cataract surgery, and corrective lenses. The tools and techniques that modern ophthalmologists use today to treat eye conditions are based on the principles Ibn al-Haytham explored. The microscopic examination of cells and tissues in medical diagnostics has also been made possible through the study of light, with technologies like optical coherence tomography, OCT, allowing for non-invasive imaging of the retina and other internal structures of the eye. These medical advancements, many of which are life-changing, owe a debt to the foundational work of early scholars in the field of optics. The legacy of light studies extends to telecommunications, where the development of fibre optics has revolutionized how we connect with one another. The ability to transmit information as light signals through fibre optic cables has created the backbone of modern global communication networks, allowing for high-speed internet, television, and telephone services to operate at an unprecedented scale. This technological revolution would not have been possible without the work of earlier scholars who studied the properties of light, particularly its ability to travel through different media with minimal loss of signal. In arts and culture, the legacy of light studies has also been profound. The work of Renaissance artists like Leonardo da Vinci, Caravaggio, and Vermeer was directly influenced by the scientific understanding of light, reflection, and shadow developed by scholars like Ibn al-Haytham. These artists used their knowledge of optics to create visually stunning works of art that captured the world in ways that had never been done before. The principles of chiaroscuro, the use of light and dark contrast to create depth and emotion, became central to Renaissance painting, allowing artists to convey a sense of realism that brought their subjects to life. In literature too, the symbolic significance of light has had a lasting impact. Light continues to be used as a metaphor for knowledge, truth, and enlightenment, influencing philosophical and literary traditions across cultures and centuries. In modern technology, the principles of light continue to shape innovation. The development of laser technology has led to advances in surgery, data storage, entertainment, and military defense. Lasers, which operate by amplifying light through stimulated emission, are used in everything from microsurgery to barcode scanners to fiber optic communications. The ability to manipulate light with precision has opened new possibilities in medicine, manufacturing, and information technology. From the optical sensors in smartphones to the laser cutting tools used in manufacturing, the applications of light-based technologies are vast and continually expanding. The exploration of quantum physics and the nature of light as both a wave and a particle is one of the most exciting frontiers of modern science. Quantum optics explores how light behaves at the subatomic level, leading to the development of quantum computers, quantum communication technologies, and quantum cryptography. These fields have the potential to revolutionize computing, security, and information transmission, offering solutions to problems that classical physics could not address. The legacy of light studies is not just found in technological achievements, but also in the scientific method itself. Ibn al-Haytham's insistence on empirical testing and reproducibility set the stage for the scientific revolution of the 17th century and continues to influence how science is done today. His approach, which emphasized careful observation and verification, became the foundation for the modern scientific method, a process that drives innovation, discovery, and problem-solving across all fields of human endeavor. As we look to the future, the legacy of light studies is set to continue influencing the next generation of scientific and technological breakthroughs. From artificial intelligence to space exploration, from quantum computing to renewable energy, the study of light will remain at the heart of the innovations that shape our world. The journey of light, from its mystical and symbolic origins to its role as a powerful tool in modern science, is a testament to the enduring legacy of those who sought to understand its nature. And as we continue to explore the universe through the lens of light, we are reminded of the profound impact that the study of this most fundamental force has had on human knowledge and civilization. The study of light has been a central thread woven throughout the fabric of human history, leading us from the earliest philosophical musings about its divine and symbolic nature to its pivotal role in the scientific and technological revolutions of the modern age. From the ancient Greeks to the Islamic scholars of the Abbasid Empire, from Renaissance artists to modern quantum physicists, the pursuit of understanding light has profoundly shaped our understanding of the world around us, the universe beyond, and even the very nature of knowledge itself. At the heart of this journey stands the work of Ibn al-Haytham, a scholar whose groundbreaking contributions to the study of light not only revolutionized the field of optics, but also provided the foundation for much of the scientific method that continues to guide research today. His empirical approach to science, emphasizing observation, experimentation, and mathematical reasoning, set the stage for the scientific revolution that would follow in the Renaissance and beyond. His work on vision, reflection, and refraction paved the way for the development of technologies like the telescope, the microscope, fiber optics, and lasers, tools that would allow us to explore both the deepest realms of space and the tiniest details of life. Through the centuries, the study of light has provided more than just practical innovations. It has acted as a symbol of human curiosity, progress, and enlightenment. Light has been a metaphor for knowledge and truth, guiding humanity out of the shadows of ignorance and into the clarity of understanding. This symbolic connection between light and knowledge has been a recurring theme in philosophy, religion, art, and literature, reflecting the deep human desire to not only understand the world, but also to see beyond the visible, into the mysteries of existence itself. In the Renaissance, light became a crucial element not only for scientific discovery, but also for artistic expression. Leonardo da Vinci, Caravaggio, and Vermeer used their understanding of light to create visual masterpieces that captured not just the physical appearance of their subjects, but also their psychological depth. The play of light and shadow, grounded in the principles of optics first explored by Ibn al-Haytham, brought a new level of realism and emotional intensity to their paintings, helping to usher in a new era of artistic and scientific exploration. The discoveries about light didn't stop at the visual arts. They extended to medicine, where optical instruments revolutionized the study and treatment of the human body. The principles of light, from magnification to laser technology, transformed ophthalmology, enabling physicians to treat eye diseases with precision and accuracy. The study of light has also played a crucial role in diagnostic imaging, surgical procedures, and non-invasive treatments, helping save countless lives. In the realm of communications, the transmission of information through fiber optic cables powered the digital revolution, allowing for the global exchange of data at unprecedented speeds. Today, the world's digital infrastructure, spanning internet networks, telecommunications, and television, relies heavily on light-based technologies that enable instant communication across continents. Light's role in telecommunications is a testament to how the scientific study of light has transformed the modern world in ways that would have seemed impossible just a few centuries ago. Perhaps one of the most extraordinary consequences of the study of light is its role in space exploration. The telescope, based on Ibn al-Haytham's principles of light manipulation, has allowed humanity to look deeper into the cosmos than ever before, leading to groundbreaking discoveries about the nature of the universe. The principles of light's behaviour in space, whether it's the study of distant stars, the examination of black holes, or the observation of galaxies, continue to shape our understanding of the cosmos and our place within it. Space telescopes, like the Hubble and the James Webb Space Telescope, rely on optical principles to reveal the wonders of the universe, offering us glimpses of the universe's birth, its vast scale, and the endless potential for discovery. Yet, despite the technological marvels that light has brought to modern civilization, we are still in the early stages of fully understanding its profound nature. The study of light, now deeply intertwined with the field of quantum physics, continues to challenge our most fundamental assumptions about the nature of reality. The concept of light as both a wave and a particle, as photons that can interact with matter at the most subatomic levels, continues to drive research in fields like quantum computing, quantum communication, and quantum cryptography. As scientists continue to explore the mysteries of light in these realms, we may soon unlock technologies that are unimaginable today, revolutionizing everything from computing power to secure communication to artificial intelligence. The legacy of light studies is a testament to the enduring power of curiosity, inquiry, and imagination. What began as an attempt to understand the basic physical properties of light has evolved into a field that touches almost every aspect of human life, from how we communicate to how we treat illness, from how we explore space to how we create art. The scientific study of light, far from being an isolated pursuit, is intrinsically connected to the broader human experience. It has shaped not only our technological capabilities, but also our culture, philosophy, and understanding of the world. As we continue to explore the potential of light, it is worth reflecting on the incredible journey that began centuries ago with the work of early thinkers like Ibn al-Haytham. His commitment to empirical observation and scientific reasoning laid the foundation for the modern scientific method and opened up a new way of thinking about the world. The legacy of light studies reminds us that the pursuit of knowledge is not just about solving problems, but also about expanding the boundaries of what is possible, both in the physical world and in the realms of human imagination. In this way, the study of light has become a timeless symbol of human progress, a guiding force that continues to illuminate the path forward in science, technology, and culture. Just as light illuminates the darkness, the study of light will continue to shine a light on the mysteries of the universe, helping us to see, understand, and create in ways that future generations will build upon. The journey that began with the study of light will undoubtedly continue to unfold, leading to new discoveries, new technologies, and new horizons for humanity to explore.